up, peoples? What's up? So, as y'all could see, we are preparing to do some Vinland Saga. So, the Vinland Saga arc has always been a talk of, like like a big topic, I guess, in like the manga community. Mainly because y'all know them signing big threes or whatever they do. They signing big fours. Vinland Saga made its way up that list. So when signing people or like signing fans talk about that demographic, Vinland Saga is one of the faces of it, according to Twitter. Like Twitter has the series as one of the face of like the that demographic. So if that's the case, it got a hoop. You know what I'm saying? Like they want the series to do well because of course, I mean, who doesn't want a good manga to keep being good, right? But so it's approaching its final arc, and Vinland Saga has been, people love the prologue, they love Farmland, they love Baltic Sea, so they're like, oh, so Final Saga got to be good as well, right? Like it just makes sense. And I was also on that boat because I had my up and downs about Vinland, but I never once thought it was a bad manga. I never did, and I actually liked it. Just of course not as much as the super fans, but I definitely think Yukimura is quite good at what he's doing. So I think even like a few years ago, I even made a vid about like my thoughts for the next chapter. I mean the next arc, and like even though the arc right before this one, it was I was up and down. I like the cigarette stuff and all that, but um, did I was thinking this arc is gonna save me, right? Like it will save my life. I'm gonna read it, just be on the moon, and then after, especially after the last chapter 218, people were making it sound like, I mean, hey, if it saved them, it saved them. I really like 218. I think 218 was good. In the beginning, I wasn't sure if I would like the chapter in like the first few pages, but it won me over in the end. That's yeah, this is very good. But it definitely was not to the point where it saved the arc. Like they made it act like if that was what the entire arc was building up to, I don't think that's what the entire arc was building up to. But people made it sound like that. I was just like, wait, so is because I had some problems throughout the arc, right? And 218 did not solve any of those problems. But to other people, I mean, I'm guessing that they didn't have those problems in the first place, or yeah, they either didn't have those problems in the first place, or 218 solved those problems for them. So, yeah, I tried to get some people on, but people busy. I get it. But yeah, so I'm just gonna be going through my thoughts on the arc. I'm just gonna speed through because the arc started, I think, at like no, 181. Yeah, so when they arrived at the island, I see we see Thorfinn keeping like the bag and stuff for the Sinu tribe, and I mean we all know Thorfinn did this kind of person, right? So I was actually excited to see how we'll get along with the Sinu tribe. And I remember back here, many people were thinking that we won't reach the point of actually being friendly, right? And they were right. It is chaos right now. I don't think we can ever go back, especially after what happened. I don't think we can. Actually, Thorfinn might make it work. That guy, he will endure anything. But in terms of like being like best buddies, yeah, that's cool. But I remember, I think, was it Arni, was 81 Arni Village, because it was when I think they named it. Yeah. So in the beginning, I really yeah Arni Village. Yeah, I think I made like a chapter review. I never chapter review, bro. I really only chapter review on like Witch Hat. But this chapter actually made me chapter review on Vinland. That was crazy. But yeah, 81 of Arnie's Village. Yeah, again, in the beginning, I had no issues. Like 80 was good, 81 was good. One thing too, I'm seeing Ivar pop up. Ivar is also one of my biggest like complaints about the series. I mean, not the series, the arc, because I feel like we didn't learn anything from Ivar, and Ivar didn't learn anything from his experiences. I feel like, even though I feel like the way he went out fit his character, You know, there was no real issue with that. But with how important he was, like if Ivar was just a guy in the crew, perfect, perfect. Like I have no qualms. But he's far more than just a guy in the crew. He was the main guy checking Thorfinn from beginning to end. In terms of ideology, he's the one that made the fort. Like Ivar has always been neck on neck with Thorfinn. And Thorfinn on his pacifist gimmick didn't want to like suppress him even though he could. So I was thinking that we would at least get a confrontation between Thorfinn and Ivar at some point where Ivar understands Thorfinn's POV, where Ivar learns that his actions have consequences, yada yada yada. But like, it's just that he's just a war junkie, died in war, and then that's it. I'm just kind of like, wait, that's it? Like, shouldn't he have done far more than this? So I'm kind of thinking that, and then like again, I'm in the beginning of the arc right now, like 182. Ivar's getting his scenes, even the last arc. Yeah, and then like just now he has this panel. It's normal for men to like war. You're the hard one out, and then they're having a talk. Yeah, and then he's being a Canute. He's more than everyone. Yada yada. Yeah. So again, in 181, I mean 182, Thorfinn again trying to drop knowledge on him. Yada yada yada. And with I don't know when Ivar. I don't know what chapter it was when he died, but that was it. You know what I'm saying? Like he died in the middle of war, didn't really repent. Not saying I want him to repent or nothing, but with the way he went out, what was the point of his character? Like what did we like compared to how Heiner went out? Heiner went out like a G. You know what I'm saying? Like all my complaints about Einar, I won't say all of them. He's still kind of a whole ass nigga to me, but I can at least respect him. You know what I'm saying? He's just like he's not on my team no more, but I can respect him. EK was good, bro. Hope things are going well. So I could still respect him based on how he went out. But yeah, when it comes to Ivar, I was thinking that like I don't know. I felt like because of how he went out, he didn't seem nearly as important as I believed him to be. And if that was the case, then we shouldn't have had as many. Because I don't mind getting his perspective, but with how like back to back and head to head he was with Thorfinn in the ideology peel front, I was thinking we'll at least get one last like ideological front between them, or if not that, at least as he's going away or as he's maybe he suffers a consequence due to his own ideology. I'm not necessarily saying that he changes it, but he at least like revisits that conversation he had with Thorfinn back then. But now with the way he went out, it's just kind of like I went to war, I died, that's it. And for a character that was as prominent as him, this arc, I was kind of like it seemed very wasted. It seemed very wasted. And then one thing too with the Lenu, I actually don't have too many complaints with the Lenu. I feel like the Lenu have decent depth, nothing too crazy, but I feel like they weren't I wanted to do group, but I assume y'all were busy. But if y'all are able to hop on, then gladly y'all can hop on. But if not, then yeah, I could just run solo. But yeah. So with the Lenu, yeah, I think the Lenu was definitely not like a bad addition to the arc. Like the Lenu, they were but I would say, because I do like the Tinu girl. I can't say her name, unfortunately, but she was quite good. And then the chief that could read the future, that's fine. Even the new Antag. Oh, you're here. Okay. Let me get EK up in here. Hold up. Streaming. Yeah, I did want to hear your thoughts too, because I know you were a big fan. And not like I'm not a big fan, but I'm a decent fan, I'll say. Decent fan. But yeah, I don't think the Lenu was a bad addition. So I don't think so I think he did fine with the Lenu, especially even that new anti that like as annoying as he is, I do appreciate that kind of character. As like a small antagonist, I feel like he's doing his nonsense well. So That's a thing. And then but I felt like I don't know because I know the main goal was for Thorfinn to at least uh establish like a friendship with the Tenu. I don't know if I mean it heartily failing. Like, could he have done a better job? I'm not too sure. But yeah, I like the fact that like how they're interacting with this new weaponry and stuff like that. Like they saw like the sword and they were like, "Yo, what's it is? What's it is?" I found I felt like that was cool. It's
Yo, what's up?
can you say something again?
What's up?
Okay, yeah, okay, take care of you.
Let me boost up my mic a bit. Okay, is that a bit better?
Yeah, yeah, that's great. All right, and then
Okay.
let me put your new guest. Okay.
Did you have like an order of things that you wanted to talk about, or did I want to like go
Nah,
in whatever
not
direction
really.
goes?
I was just gonna go. I was going from how I felt just in general, and then like I went from the like I'll just pretty much going from like the beginning of the arc, and then like throughout, and then just whatever kind of sparks my mind to like whatever topic kind of sparks, I'll just speak on it a bit. So I spoke a bit on Ivar, my thoughts about how he went out and his role, and like some of the goals that they were established in the beginning. But I wanted to speak on like the latest ones towards like the end, or not towards the end, but like not like right now, just more so just the arc in general, and then it will lead up to the latest chapter since that's what everyone's buzzing about. Because I know you reread, didn't you?
Yeah, as soon as you said you wanted to talk about it, I reread up from when Thorfinn landed back in Iceland after he went to Greece, all the way to the latest chapters. So it was around like 50-ish chapters.
Oh, damn.
50, 60 chapters, something like that.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. I know the arc starts around 180. Oh, well, when they landed, it was around 180.
Yeah, when they.
Yeah.
So,
okay, so did
I can
a reread like change your thoughts on certain things, and you can kind of talk about
not really. My thoughts have stayed rather consistent.
Okay.
If not, like my opinion on the arc is just like more solidly positive, if that makes sense. Because now since I've reread it, I'm like, yeah, no, like this arc is good in my opinion.
Okay.
Let me just check real quick. So I started reading from 165 or 66 to now 218. So like 50-ish chapters.
Yeah. Oh, Sacred's the yep, that was my guy.
Yep. So there's like a lot about this arc, and I think one of the things that we as the readers have to be like very clear in our minds about is like we know the history, right? We know like how this is going to end regardless of what actually like happens throughout the story. Like we know what the ending is going to be, right? For the most part, we don't know the exact details of what Yukimura wants to do, right? But we know like the story is going to end with this being a massive failure, right? Because that's how the history is. This was a failure of colonization. The Nords went back, and Thorfinn is not going to achieve his goal in Vinland, which is to create a country of peace without weapons.
That's a good point. I actually, these amount of people are actually not aware. I would say.
So, because if you want to pretend like we don't know the history, or like this is like a fictional story or something, then like maybe might be more mad. Like, why is our main character failing at his goal, right? Usually stories are about main characters succeeding at their goals. But, like, that's not what this story is. From the very start, as soon as you understand that Thorfinn's goal is to go to Vinland and start a country without war, like, you know it's cooked. From, like, chapter or whatever it is, like 100 or whatever, like the end of, like, the slave arc. Like, you know this dream is cooked. It's not happening. But that doesn't change, like, the message of the story, right? Which is, the message is, honestly, that Thorfinn's wrong, and that Ivar is right, if I'm being honest. Whoa, which is the whole problem.
Hot take, bro. That's a hot take.
It is, like... So, the problem... So, basically, if we look at the discussion that Ivar and Thorfinn actually have before they set off, where Ivar is trying to convince Thorfinn to let him bring a sword, and then Ivar basically concludes that Thorfinn is running an experiment, is that Thorfinn wants to create a country that does not have swords because swords cause war. That is Thorfinn's logic. The sword whispers in people's ears to use it, and once you use, like, the only way to use a sword is to kill people with it, right?
Yeah.
It is the only tool that is designed purely for killing at the time, right? Spears can be used for hunting, axes can be used for chopping wood and stuff, right? All these other tools that can be used to kill people also can be used for other things. I mean, there's, like, a whole bunch of other weapons that would also be in line with the sword being only for killing stuff, but Yukimura wanted to keep things simple, and he just left it at the sword, right? He didn't talk about pole arms or flails or something like that, right? Just keep it at the sword, nice and simple. So if the sword's only purpose is to kill people, if you have a sword, eventually, like, you're going to want to kill someone with it, right? Yep. It's just what it is. And in that sense, Thorfinn is right. But to assume that you can create a country that does not have some kind of standing military force and have it succeed with other neighboring civilizations around is just a pipe dream, right? Because that's so long. What was that?
King Riku from One Piece did it.
Oh yeah, I mean, sure. But then look at what happened to King Riku. Yeah. Someone usurped him. Like, and what did they have to do to put King Riku back? they had to beat up Doflamingo and kick him out. Like, so long as there's uneven power dynamics between two groups, right?
Yeah, that's true.
The group, it's not even the group that has more power. So long as there's an uneven power dynamic, actually, so long as there's two different groups, right? They're going to want things from one another, and they're not going to always get along with one another to allow for things like trade or something, right? Mm-hmm. And if there's an uneven power dynamic, then, like, war will occur, right? And just because you are willingly setting yourself up to be the lower power dynamic person does not suddenly mean that war is not going to happen. Because all you're now doing is you're putting the onus on the other person to not start war.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
Which is exactly what happened. The Nords have no weapons, and then who instigates the war? The Linu. The natives instigate the war, right? They're the ones that start the battle. Because they want things, and they recognize that they have military power that the Nords don't have. Right? Whereas if the Nords had more military power, then theoretically
they'll be a bit more
they could not use it, right? Mm-hmm. The idea is, if you have more military might than the others, but you don't use it, right? Then there could maybe be peace. Or if both sides have equal, if both sides have equal military might and conclude that it is not in their best interest to start a fight, then you can have peace, right?
Because in Thorfinn's head, he might like he probably think that's like fake peace. That like it's which it is, but it's still the best you're gonna get in given like the different scenarios. Because if they're not starting war or they're peaceful with you, because it's kind of like how they did like the big stick diplomacy. It's like they're just like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
like they got you know we can get hurt a lot for starting something, so let's just not start. But of course, as soon as they even out or even get slightly ahead, then like the peace breaks. But he wants that idealistic, like even if you have a huge amount of weapons or we have huge amount of weapons, there'll be no war because we just don't want war. Or like even if you have no weapons, we still don't want war. Stuff like that.
Exactly. And like Thorfinn's perspective only really works if you're capable of just always running away, right? Which
That's
is what
true.
he
Yeah.
originally thought he was doing. He thought he was
Mhm.
running away from war in Europe to go to Vinland and escape war. But then what does he find? He finds more war, right? And then what is his decision that he makes that causes the split amongst the Nords? He says, "Okay, we'll leave," right? But then that's where the core issue is, where like Thorfinn is not realizing, right? There's this disconnect in his logic where he is not realizing that if the answer to undesirable war where people won't listen to you, right, is to just run away, then it is inherently impossible to make a home, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Because if your solution to violence is always don't defend, run away, then you can't have a home. You have to just always be on the move until you find like the one place in the world where like no one else wants to live there and your ass is living there because you just don't want to fight anybody else. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So he would have to search around like throughout the ends of the earth to find this peaceful place that no one else wants to fight over. But like, the reason why no one else wants to fight over this place is because no one else wants to live there because it sucks. So it's just like, why would he want to live there too? You know?
And another thing too, the fact that Ivar and Stark was able to convince Cordelia to not say anything about like the weapons and all of that shows that like, especially in these times, what they're saying seems very reasonable. Like Cordelia's inherently not a violent person, doesn't like war, yada yada yada. But like there are points about they mentioned how they wanted to like when Ivar was watching Thorfinn, he's saying he actually doesn't want to defend his land at all. He's saying that having a leader that with no military, no fighting power, it's hard to feel safe. And he says sword is necessary. That's why he snuck it on board. And Cordelia was debating whether or not to tell, and then Stark and Ivar convinced her like no, like what we're doing isn't bad, yada yada yada. And for someone again that isn't really pro military, pro war like Cordelia to like not condone, but to like I guess accept. I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for. Accept their way of thinking.
She didn't really accept it because what happened was she heard their arguments and then was just unsure of what to do.
Okay,
right?
She was unsure, so okay.
And so she let it sit until later, where I forget exactly what Thorfinn said to her. Thorfinn said something like, "You could just be kind, like you don't have to fight," things like that, right?
Okay.
And then Cordelia said, like, Ivar snuck a sword in.
Okay, I see. So that's why. Okay, all right.
Yeah, so she did eventually say that, like, hey, Ivar brought a sword. But she didn't just say it, like, immediately when she first saw it. She was instead, like, unsure what to do with the information. Because she wasn't sure, like, are Ivar and Stark right? Is Thorfinn right? I don't know. And then, like, she's just kind of convinced to just follow Thorfinn the whole way through. And decides, like, I'm going to tell on Stark. But I heard you talking about Ivar right before I came in. And like you were saying that you think that Ivar feels kind of like a nothing character.
I meant
And
more like based on not necessarily the setting character, but I wasn't a fan of how he went out. I feel like he had a bit more. I felt like there's stuff left on the table for him, at least in terms of actually with what you're saying, with like how you're saying that he was. If you look at it from the perspective that he was pretty much correct about how the world works and stuff like that, it kind of changed my thinking a little bit. But what I was getting at is that I felt that with how much head to head he had with Thorfinn on that ideological POV, um, I felt like that should have at least been brought back even a little bit because I know when he was going out, it's not like he didn't regret it, but he didn't necessarily tie it back to like how he was, like his own ideology or his own beliefs, or he didn't even bring up Thorfinn. I mean, not saying that he had to, but I do feel like Thorfinn and him not having like one more interaction, or at least able to not necessarily talk it out, but just one more kind of clash, just so whether it's Thorfinn adapts a little bit, or he adapts, or maybe the either adapts, or they enter a scenario where Ivar reaffirms his beliefs, or maybe doubts it, stuff like that. But I feel like he just went out, and then that was kind of it. And I'm just like,
I disagree because I think what Yukimura did with both Ivar and Stark is like really masterful.
he said, really what?
Masterful.
Okay.
Because Stark and Ivar as like a dynamic were really interesting. Because I'm trying to remember exactly which chapter it was. It was when they had the thing in Vinland. And it ended up becoming a debate not between... It was starting off as a debate between Thorfinn and Ivar, but then became a debate between Hild and Stark. Oh. And it was at that chapter where I remember everyone kind of made the realization that like, hey, wait, if we look back at like everything Ivar has done, right? Everything Ivar has said. And like Ivar as a character. Ivar has, from the very, very beginning, always actually just been a puppet of Stark.
Oh yeah.
And when I was rereading it, it's actually like, once you like, if you understand that, if you look back from the very beginning and you start rereading, it really is like every step that Ivar takes in the story was actually originally from Stark. Ivar doesn't even know about the plan to go to Vinland until Stark tells him, like, hey, did you hear about this thing that just happened? There was this guy named Thorfinn, and he said he's going to go colonize some new land. And Stark's the one that says, like, hey, we should, like, consider thinking, like, going to this place. But he said something weird. Like, he said, we can't bring swords, so, like, let's go talk to him and try to convince him to let us take swords. And so Ivar goes, tries to, like, beat some sense into Thorfinn and say, like, hey, man, we need swords. Thorfinn doesn't listen.
Oh, so Stark was the one that had the... Okay, I see.
And then, as Ivar and Stark are walking away, Ivar's like, I can't see eye to eye with that guy. I don't think we should go. And then Stark's like, nah, man, we should definitely go. Because what's going to happen is we're going to go there. Thorfinn's plan is going to fail. People are going to need a new leader. That new leader could be you, Ivar. So Stark is the one that not only tells Ivar about the trip to Vinland in the first place, but even then implants the idea of Ivar usurping Thorfinn to become the new leader. And exactly how it's going to happen. And then, in Vinland, what keeps happening? Stark keeps guiding Ivar in the ways
Yeah,
to
it was
like
around
essentially start the war.
195, like with the Hill Stark, the Hill Stark
Mm-hmm.
thing. Wait, yeah, keep going, my phone.
Because like even like I forget which chapter it is, but like after the war is basically kind of starting, right? It was after the old man, the old seer man, uh, fake attacks Thorfinn only to get his hand cut off by Ivar and his sword, and then like Stark, Ivar, and like their third brother, whose name I forget, he's like an actual non-character. They're like in the forest patrolling, and like Stark like admits to Ivar like, oh yeah, if it wasn't for like you, Ivar, as like the figurehead, right, and that old man that you just like cut the hand of, like trying to also instigate things, there wouldn't be a war right now. Obviously, like I still think there will be a war later because the other Lanu that we've seen, like the Lanu, there are various tribes, right, and some of them are very war hungry and are very enticed by these steel tools for their ability to kill people, right? So eventually battle will have occurred, right? It's just that this specific battle is being instigated purely by Ivar and the old seer man. And if it wasn't for these two, this battle would not be happening right now. Battle will probably be happening later. But for the most part, that war that was just starting is like solely because of Ivar and the old man. And Ivar does not realize this, right? Until Stark tells him, like, yeah, no, if it wasn't for us and like that old man, there would be no battle right now. Like straight up. Because Stark, like, as we continue to see the way Stark handles things, the way Stark talks, the way Stark plans things out, he is one of the most intelligent characters in the series. He is a man behind the scenes. He has masterfully puppeted Ivar to try and get Ivar up into a position of power. Because Stark wants Ivar to be in a position of power because they're brothers, and he's just like, Ivar's a leader. Ivar should be in a leader position. So I'm going to do what it takes to put Ivar in that leader position, right? When really, like, Stark is the mastermind behind everything. So I think like these two in their dynamic is really interesting, especially in that like Ivar does not realize how much Stark is the one like guiding him and like putting him in this position without Ivar even realizing.
With the brains.
Yeah, like he does not realize how much Stark is manipulating him, right? But then when we see like their final moments, I think it really sets in stone the message, or one of the messages of Vinland. Which is not that just like, you know, Thorfinn is wrong. But at the end of the day, even though Thorfinn is wrong, Yukimura does have a bigger message, which is like, hey, even though Thorfinn is kind of wrong, he is also kind of right. We don't have enemies. War is pointless, right? Peace should be the thing that we always strive for. And when you seek war, there's nothing to actually win, right? Because what happens to Stark and Ivar, the ones that seek war?
Yeah, the most.
They see third brother die.
Die the dog's death.
Ivar die. And then Stark, in his final attempts at getting revenge, dies. All three of them having achieved nothing.
It even goes third person. It was Stark.
I couldn't tell you his name. They said his name a couple times. That man never talked once in the entire series.
Oh, you mean
he's just their third brother.
Oh, Ivar's third brother?
Yeah, Ivar and Stark's third brother.
Oh, snap. I did not. Oh, okay.
He's a nothing character. Okay. Do not worry about him. The point is, he's around, he dies. Right? That's all his character does. But Stark and Ivar also die. And it goes back all the way to like the slave art, you know, farmland. Like what happens with Ironfest Kettle and like his first son. They fight for they fight a losing battle and die, right?
Yeah.
Leaving the youngest son to like then pick up what's left behind. What the Ivar and Cirque gain from their attempts to, bring needless war that does not need to happen, all in an attempt to usurp power. They die. They die and they lose their brothers too. There's nothing to be won from war. So, and I think like that is a great way to handle their characters, where they're doing all these things to start a war, right? One's being manipulative without even realizing it. One's doing all of this like mental work to try and gain something for himself and his brothers, only for like 2/3 of the Nords to die, including themselves. Right? War gains you nothing. Whereas if they did not try to instigate this war, the Nords would be alive for a little while longer. Right?
Yeah. Because Hunter did have more than enough time to escape if he was still about that, let's not war, let's get out of here, as Thorfinn wanted to do at first. And then, even though now they're trying to at least cut their losses a bit, not have the entire group get wiped out. But like you said, we already see how many people got wiped out with them trying to promote them going to war. And just for him to stop the casualties from getting worse, he had to give up his life for it too. It was just like, goodness, bro. Now, like, seeing their reactions, like, next chapter, to at least, no, like, more like the political, like, reactions, like, of course, there's just no chance Thorfinn's gonna go, like, lose his mind or anything, like, that's not happening, but I would like to see how other people react to just the Chenu, and if, like, or how quickly they do leave the island, and where they'll go next, and stuff like that, because I do think I have a feeling we will be here for a bit longer, but I don't know how they're going to make that work. But
yeah, I think the story is wrapping up, to be honest.
Yeah, he did
say
he's looking to ending. He's looking to end it in the near future.
I expect the story to be done next year.
Yeah, that's fair.
I will say, I think Thorfinn, his greatest fault this arc was never being properly straightforward with the Nords.
Yeah.
I think he would have gotten a lot more understanding from the people that he was with and representing if he just told them, like, why he wanted a land of peace. And not just the whole spiel of, all we've ever known is war. You guys want to escape war. Like, we're trying to go to a place without war, right? To not have war means we need to also commit to not, fighting or things like that. Whereas, like, the person that he unironically convinced the most this arc on this path is the old man seer.
Dude.
Because after
the old man seer, yeah.
Right after the old man seer saves him, because he's been shot by multiple arrows by the other Lanu, and Pulm picked him up and said, like, hey, old man seer, we need you to, like, heal him. The old man seer was like, why are you doing all this, Thorfinn? Like, we're your enemies. And Thorfinn drops, the catchphrase of the series now. I have no enemies. And then how does the old man seer respond? He's like, he makes the realization, like, oh shit, this man, like, knows about the teachings of one of our great spirits. That is the way of one of our great spirits. your only enemies are the ones that you declare as your enemies. If you don't declare you have any enemies, you have no enemies. There's no reason to fight people who aren't your enemies because you have no enemies.
Yep.
And that's like the person that like he convinced on his side. And I feel like if he had a proper conversation with Stark, with Ivar, with the other Nords, because remember, like from all of these Nords' perspectives, Thorfinn's just a merchant.
Oh yeah.
He's just a dude that rolled up to Iceland with a bunch of money. They don't actually know anything about Thorfinn. The only people that know about Thorfinn are his crew, right? Him and like the sailors who were like ex-Jorms Vikings.
Yeah, ex-Jorms Vikings.
But even the Jorms Vikings, they don't know a lot about Thorfinn. They just know that he was the last person in charge of the Jorms Vikings, and the first and last thing he did was disband the Jorms Vikings. Yeah. So like they know that he's a warrior, but like that's about it. They don't really. Like, none of these other characters really know like Thorfinn's life story and like the reason why he thinks the way he does and what he's truly trying to accomplish with Vinland, right? And if he actually just sat down everybody and was like, hey, you know, I know you guys are scared of the Lanu. I know you guys are like starting to look for a reason to fight. But like, let me tell you, I've lived in war my whole life, right? And he just told them his story of like how he was raised, all the people that he's killed, the conclusions that he's come to after like, you know, dealing with the guilt of all the people that he's killed, right? The uncountable number of people that he's killed. Because like from Ivar and Stark's perspective, Thorfinn's a bitch, right? Yeah. They're like, this man, he is short, he's fucking weak, he can't kill anybody, he's like a weirdo who doesn't like war, right? They think he's like a little bitch. That's what I wanted
to bring up too, because when you mentioned that, like one of the ways to like, I won't say true peace, but a form of peace would be like if you had higher military strength or you were the higher power, but you choose not to use it, and then the other person, of course, can't really go against you due to that difference. And as long as you, as the more powerful one, don't engage in wars or any fighting, you can minimize conflict. And Thorfinn being like by far the strongest warrior in like this group, but no one knows that. You know, like you said, they just think he's a merchant. They think he's, you know, he's too weak to. That's why he hates war, because he's too weak. If he was, yeah, like you said,
he's weak and scared.
Yeah, weak and scared. If he was just more transparent, just kind of showed like, hey, like I could ease, like if I really wanted to war, like this would be quite easy. But I'm not going down that road. And of course, explaining like his journey, all of that. Especially since Ivar and them, they do respect strength. And like he just doesn't show it at all. He just want to use just words alone, and that's never gonna do it for them.
Yeah, it's just like if he's just more transparent and let them know like this is his life experience and this is what Vinland means to him. I think he would have garnered a lot more support and a lot more understanding. Do I think like everyone would still follow him, especially when he's like thinking like, hey, we should just ditch this place, right? Like, no, we even saw like Einar, say like I'm not going to run away. I'm not going to protect this place.
And still was like, nah, but you think I got some.
But like, I can't call Einar wrong. Like, they went there. They spent the last year there. They planted their seeds. They built their homes.
They named the village after his favorite girl. Like he's not even that pleased, bro.
I think like my only complaint about Einar is I think he's too much of a simp for Arnheim, bro. It's ridiculous, man. I'm like, yo, this woman was married, had a kid and a husband, and then all three of them are dead, and your ass is still out here longing for her, bro. Like, move on.
His dying words, like, would she be disappointed in me? I'm like, I don't think she's thinking about you, bro. Like, I don't know. Like,
Bro, she's spending her time in heaven with her husband and child, bro. Like, your ass is not getting in there with her, bro. Give up. Like, I mean, even still though, like, these people came to Vinland with the perspective of making new homes, right?
yeah,
And now Thorfinn is the only one who's willing to just kind of throw that away. And like, to be honest, it kind of makes sense that Thorfinn's the only one that's willing to throw that away because Thorfinn hasn't had a consistent home since he was like 6 years old.
yeah,
Which he left on his own, right? Like, he left, followed his dad, and then all this shit happened with his dad. And ever since then, he never got back home. Then, like, the longest time he stayed in one place was when he was a slave, right? So Thorfinn kind of doesn't fully understand the idea of owning, like, having a home.
yeah,
In fact, during the arc, one of the problems that arose, like, after they finished their first harvest, or they were getting like ready for their first harvest and stuff, was like the division of land. And they were all arguing about the division of land, who should get what land. Some people were lazy, they don't deserve as much land, or like, hey, I want the land next to the rivers, or I want this patch of land because it's nice, or I deserve a bigger patch of land than everyone else, yada yada yada, right? And like, Thorfinn then says like, oh yeah, I didn't think how big of a deal this was because I never owned property. And it's like, yeah, property is really, like, really important, especially when your property is directly like correlated with the amount of food you eat, right? Because they're all farmers basically.
yeah.
Like, property matters. Like, dude, you ever go down to like West Virginia or like the South or something into the farmlands, bro? People will fight over property lines to this day. I've seen like farmers they have mad beef with their neighbors because they're always fighting over property lines, right? And this is like shit that you just won't understand unless you just own property. You're not going to understand this idea of not wanting to ditch your home when you've never had a home, right? Whereas like Einar, he had a home until like he was what, 20 or whatever, like, and then he got caught and became a slave. He had a home like for most of his life. All these people that he brought with him from Iceland, they've all had homes in Iceland their entire lives, right? And they all had to resolve to drop all their shit back in Iceland.
Yeah, to come here. And then to go back after all this time with no progress, it's a little too much.
Exactly. So I was like, of course none of these people want to just like ditch, whereas Thorfinn is totally fine with it, right?
So what are the biggest you say misconceptions people have of this arc? I know you already spoke on how I was thinking that he should have a talk with Ivar, but he did have a talk with Stark, and Stark really was the one that needed to talk with. But I know a lot of people they bring up certain things about the arc that and then a lot of the stuff that you hear every now and then. Which one do you think is like a misconception that like they're just either understanding it wrong or they're seeing it in like a too simple of a way? If
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know because I don't keep up too much with what people say on this series on Twitter. I'll like mostly just read, like, whenever a new chapter comes out, I'll read the chapter and then I'll go to the manga subreddit and read the discussion post on the Vinland chapter there. And generally speaking, I haven't seen people like say any kind of like wild statements that I think are based on misconceptions. I think most of the time I see people kind of, I mean, like outside of like people just being kind of like sad over what's happening, people seem to more or less be fine with what's happening.
Yeah,
I guess.
that is true. I feel that.
I don't know if it's different on Twitter though.
Nah, I'll say it's usually the same. I just um, it's just that if it just existed, you know, that's just something people could mention. I'm trying to think if there's something. Oh yeah, what about Kanute's appearance? How do you feel about that? Because um he was never meant to be a big part of this arc, so I don't mind that. Like we just kind of saw him get that parallel version of how he dealt with the disease. This is how Thorfinn's crew dealt with it. But um, do you think that like how do you think his character's been throughout the series, and like if his or if he should have did a bit more with him now? Even I don't know how he would have done that, but are you like kind of fine with how he's been handled so far, or you think it could have been a bit more?
My expectation is that towards the end of the series, Thorfinn is going to go back to Denmark and see Canute.
Okay.
And they're going to kind of like have a discussion. That's like my theory on like kind of what's going to happen in the future. Because, like you said, Canute appearing in this arc for like the disease thing, right? It's like it's a reminder that Canute is still a character.
Yep.
Um, Thorfinn even brings up Canute when he's talking to Ivar one night at Vinland. Thorfinn and Ivar are having an argument that we're like led to believe is like a rather regular argument based off of what Bug Eye says, where it's like, oh yeah, like the max they can go without fighting is like 3 days or something like that, right? So we're led to believe that they kind of have the same argument over and over and over again. And this one we're particularly being shown because Thorfinn kind of gives Ivar this riddle where the answer is like the person is Canute. But he's giving this riddle of like how Canute is this person who absolutely despises war, but he's raging a war every day, right? Which is what he's doing. He's raging the wars of Denmark and England, right? He's trying to create his own utopia away from God. But I suspect that because Canute is not being treated as like a forgotten character that will not really disappear from the series, that him and Thorfinn are going to have like a final interaction where they will have some kind of discussion on, you know, the successes and failures of their ideologies on how to achieve the utopia that they both kind of dream of.
Yeah, it's funny. He made Canute's like his parallel, like it worked out, even though it was very simple and brutal, but it did work. I don't know if he's implying that if they do meet in the future, he's gonna be just like mad successful, got like one of the greatest kingdoms. They're just like, dang, that'd be kind of crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I do suspect that Canute is not done in the story and that there will be something for him.
Do you think some of the tenue would come with the? Actually, no. Ah. Do you think that one girl was gonna follow poor guys to back to Iceland, or is it Greenland? It's Iceland, right?
Iceland.
Yeah.
No. Or no. Bug Eyes lives in Greenland.
Okay. You think that I forgot her name, but you think she's gonna follow him there just so the Tennu stays, like the Tennu influence kind of stays within Thorfinn's circle?
I don't think so.
Yeah, probably not.
I think no one is going to end up happy at the end of this
Yeah.
story.
That makes sense.
I think everyone who stays alive is going to be really sad.
Where do you think Hild will go from here? Since that she already kind of accepted that Thorfinn is changed and all of that, but she wanted to prevent this war too by taking out Ivar, Stark, and that Seer. But you know, war still happened, and it's kind of like, okay, so you think she's gonna keep? Actually, I guess she doesn't have anywhere else to go, right? And she's gonna keep following Thorfinn. I mean, after they go back, do you think that like outside of just kind of being a helper, is there? Because I don't recall if she had, if this like getting Thorfinn or affirming where Thorfinn's stance is are like side quests, and then she has like something else she wanted to do before she met Thorfinn, or if this is now gonna be like her mainstay.
I don't know what she's about to do. She might just continue to follow around Thorfinn.
As I'm
She
thinking,
might go back to England, I think it is where she's from.
because she had a very powerful presence within the village, but that's not necessarily the case if they go back to Iceland, right? Like they already got a stable community over there. Because like here, of course, they needed that kind of fencer character to teach the kids, defend, help hunt. But in Iceland, they already got all those roles pretty much stable. And then she's been there. I mean, that was back when she didn't really care too much about the group, so she was just in her corner, just kind of doing her thing. But now that she's more integrated into the group, even if she was to go back, would she just stay in Iceland with them, or like would she have a bigger goal? Because I'm not sure if she was hunting Thor. Like I know she trained to get revenge one day, but meeting Thorfinn was an accident, I'm sure, right? I'm not too. It's been a while since the Hild appearance that I read, like, because of how talented she is, I wasn't sure if she had like an unsettled goal before she met Thorfinn. But we'll see though.
I think she'll probably want to stay with Thorfinn's family simply because she seems to have an interest in Carly.
Yeah.
Thorfinn's son. Adopted son. Yeah, so I suspect that she'll try and stay around Carly at the very minimum and help Thorfinn in whatever his next endeavor is going to be. Because it sounds like Thorfinn hasn't given up, right?
Yeah.
He literally tells Pelm and the old man Seer, like, I will sail around the world looking for a cure for the disease, right? So that we can coexist, right? I will do, like, whatever problem arises, I will go find a solution such that we can coexist, yada, 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 right? So, I suspect, like, Thorfinn's journey is not over. Thorfinn will continue to... Excuse me. I just had, like, a bunch of pizza. So I'm still kind of gassy.
Hey.
But I suspect he's going to run around constantly trying to find something to latch onto because he's not giving up on his idea of a peaceful country.
See, well, what specific parts would you point out? Because I do know a lot of people. Oh yeah, the war too. How do you feel about that? Like, cause like Thorfinn didn't participate in the war, of course. You know, he was passed out. Did you like overall? Do you think the war was? What word am I looking for here? Like, did you enjoy it? or do you think it
Uh,
was supposed to be? Because I felt like it was more so like it's supposed to serve a specific purpose than because you know like in prologue they had wars just to flick the choreography just to show just how crazy these Vikings are and stuff like that. But of course, this war wasn't more so just um a choreography flex. Given it was a shorter war, didn't last as long, um day wise and chapter wise. Of course, we had some moments of Haina, Ivar, Stark, all of that. So, do you think that the war, like in terms of it serving its purpose, like did its job well, or it wasn't like as good as it could have been?
I think it served its purpose. It's obviously not supposed to be same as the wars in the prologue, right?
Yeah,
Like, no one here is a European soldier, right? We have Iceland farmers versus natives who have never seen a fort before, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like when we see the new warriors fight, like we can see some style from some of them, right? Especially like their leaders, like the guy who took the sword. That guy picked up a sword, never used a sword in his life, and is already like swinging it around like he knows what he's doing, right? So like, I think it's been fine. Like the Lanu are fighting rather intelligently,
yeah,
which I'm glad to see. One of the worries obviously when we have stories like this involving the Native Americans, right, is historically in Western media we have not given them their credit, right, on making them seem kind of equal to us just with a different history, right?
yeah,
Usually Western media throughout history has treated Native Americans as more primitive and more savage like and things like that, right? Whereas Vinland Saga has been doing a rather good job at making them just seem like other humans, right?
yeah,
And showing to us like just because they don't have like iron, right? Just because they don't have metal doesn't mean that these guys haven't had like wars before and they don't they understand things like tactics and how to think about battle and things like that, right? It's just they've never seen things like a really large wall made out of wooden logs before, right? So like when you're encountered by something you don't know, like you've never seen before, like obviously you're gonna be kind of like, oh, what do we do, right? They're gonna try to do some things, and some of the stuff they came up with was like effective, right? One of the first things that they did when they saw the wall was like, oh hey, let's go put fires next to the wall. And that is like one of the tactics that you're supposed to apply, right? Like you want to keep the people behind the wall busy, like putting out the fires and shit, right?
yeah,
And what did they do? They realized like, oh, there's an opening
yeah.
behind the wall, like from the sea. So what do? They grab all their canoes and they circle around, right? And the only reason that failed is because the Yoms Vikings came back at like the most convenient timing.
Yeah, they would have wiped them all out.
Exactly. So it's like the Lanu have been doing a great job, and like the Iceland farmers are doing what they could figure out. Yeah, what they could. But the Lanu warriors, they do not have the military expertise of the Europeans, and the Europeans are farmers, right? So they kind of know some military things from osmosis of like their culture, right? But those guys aren't soldiers; they're all farmers, right? They're not experts at it. They're just kind of like doing what they kind of know about, right? So I think the battle has been rather fine, and the emotion of this battle is not like we're not supposed to like be looking at this battle and be thinking like, oh man, this is cool choreography. This fight is so flashy, and like like oh man, look at Thorfinn aura forming, right? Like that's not what this war is about anymore, right? We've left those days. This is a war where like people are going to die gruesome deaths that nobody should be dying, and we're going to see characters that we don't want to see get hurt. So I think the war has been perfectly fine at what it's supposed to be doing.
I'm just going through some old comments y'all made 2 weeks ago. Oh, Baltic felt like a boring detour. Oh, it's not. Great.
Oh yeah, I really think Baltic Sea is the boring detour that like I know why it had to happen, but like, bro, we were there for too long. We did not need it to be even half as long as it was.
It was part of his culture. Interesting. Okay. All right. Let me see. I might have covered a good amount, but I'm still. Okay, so in terms of not Anna and just this arc, but just overall, since we're probably with what happened last chapter, that's probably the last time we're seeing him. So, like as a character, how has Hannah performed just in general, and then in just this arc, like to you?
I think Einar's a great character.
Okay.
I understand like why you don't like Einar anymore.
Oh no, see,
you know.
yeah, okay, yeah, you.
Like I totally get it, right? But like, from my perspective, I think
I actually do respect him though. I put it out there. I do respect Einar.
I think Einar. How do I say this? I think Einar might be a sad truth, the reality of the lesson of Thor's.
Okay.
Maybe. Or, I'll try to say this.
You mean because like as soon as he went against like the creed he used to have, he got off? So like that in a way.
No.
Okay.
I guess you could say like, you know, one of the biggest what ifs you can give for Vinland is what if Thor's didn't die, right?
Yeah.
What if Thor's didn't die? Would Thorfinn have properly learned the lesson that Thor's wanted to teach him? Right?
Sigurd did.
Which is
no problem.
You have no enemies, right? Because Thor's didn't learn this lesson until he learned it himself.
Okay.
By being in war and like killing a bunch of people in war.
And that's why Sigurd
and then
is
kind
good,
of like
hands clean, still learned the lessons. That's all I'm gonna say. He was in war though. You saw firsthand. He had front row seats. So that's the common denominator. It's just that other people are actively killing, well, he was just actively watching and running away.
Yeah. Okay, so actually, I forgot about Sigurd.
Yeah, Sigurd.
In that sense. So, I guess the point I was about to make doesn't stand then because Sigurd exists. Because, you know, I was going to say, like, the biggest what if is, like, what if Thor's, you know, was alive? Would Thorfinn actually have learned the lesson? Or did Thorfinn only learn the lesson because he went through his own journey of violence first? Just like how Thor's did.
Yeah.
Because then you could say, like, oh, you know, we thought Einar understood the lesson that Thorfinn
I see what you're getting
was telling him. But then, like, you know, when push came to shove, Einar said, like, no, I want to fight.
Yeah.
And then Einar fought. And then he killed one guy.
Yeah, just one guy.
He just killed one dude.
He's like, oh my god.
And he was instantly like, bro, I had no
burden.
choice. I had no choice. I had no choice. This burden of killing a man.
When it comes to one is a lot when it comes to killing. It is.
Yeah, like it is. I don't brought some perspective. Like, dude, it only takes one. It only takes one.
It only takes one.
But you know, like you can say like Einhard did not actually learn the lesson from Thorfinn's words. It was only after actually committing violence himself that he kind of saw like, oh wait, this is the lesson.
Hunter was horned at times, but at the end he understood. He was probably one of the most human of them all because he and his flawed nature still got it at the end of the day. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he did get the lesson. Too bad he had to die for it. But he at least prevented it from getting much, much worse. Because if he didn't stop Stark, actually, I don't think Stark would have killed that guy. I don't think Stark had it in him. But he would have just slashed him, though. And then that would have just made the war even worse. Because the people that died were the ones that were active. Like the active warriors that were in the fields. Mm-hmm. And they're all farmers anyway. So the ones left are like the bottom class farmers. Like they really can't fight. And then these... the Tenu, like the tribe that didn't participate but were watching, they're all full health. The chief got the sword. Like it'll be over, bro.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think when it comes to Einar,
I mean, he was.
I think Einar is a good character.
Yeah.
Where it was really, Einar was really important in setting stone, like how radical Thorfinn is.
Yeah. And he also kept Thorfinn
like
going.
Thorfinn,
because like when Thorfinn tried to give up when they met Hild, Einar was like, "Oh nah, like but we got a dream to accomplish, bro. Well, what you mean suicide to redeem for your sins?" It's like, so like that's one of his best scenes, because mentally Thorfinn still isn't as mentally strong as people would think in those scenarios. Like he doesn't know how to confront those. I mean, that's the whole thing, right? Like he's fighting his ghost, the guilt, and then when he met Hild, it's like it's not like he can kill her, and she wants to kill him. He's like, all right, then what do I do now? It's like I helped kill off her village, yada. But he also wants to live to do the dream. But and then he just, all right, I'll just decide to give him my life here. But he had Einar to keep him on track. So it seems like that is why I really appreciated him.
Yeah, and like that's why Einar is cool. But I think the whole conflict between him and Thorfinn, when it came to defending versus ditching, like really showcased like how radical like Thorfinn is, right?
Yeah.
No one truly understood how radical Thorfinn was, not even Einar.
Yeah. You were one of the first ones to I know when that chap dropped, I was losing my mind. And then you're like, hey, chill. Einar, it makes sense to not want to leave. Because yeah.
Like seriously, think about it. Like, you followed Thorfinn for years thinking like you are going to Vinland to start a new country, a new home for all of y'all. Y'all travel all the way to fucking Greece, travel all the way back to Iceland, travel from Iceland to Vinland. You spend a year in Vinland making a whole farm and everything. You convince all these people to come with you, right? And then Thorfinn's just like, yeah, nah, we'll leave. And like, of course he's gonna be like, nah, fuck that shit. Like, I thought I was with you, Thorfinn, but like, I hate. This is my new home now. I'm gonna defend it. It makes total sense. And it like I said, it really showcases just like how radical Thorfinn is in his beliefs versus like even a person as crazy as Einar who was willing to follow him up to this point. Right?
I didn't really think of it like that. Yeah, that does make sense. Because like if Einar of all people had to take a step back, that's when you really know that okay, maybe there's a bit of something going on here. Okay. Yeah, and I also really liked again 218. Oh yeah, some of the dialogue on 218. I mean that's more so of Yukimura in general. That like I do like the themes he's trying to set. He's trying to set, and also he keeps the glorification on the lower end. Like I've seen way worse, but like it is still there. Because I remember when Einar, caught that body, and then he's saying, "Oh, this burden that I have on me now. I took a life," and then just like, is this like the burden you've been carrying? You're amazing. You're really a true warrior. I was like, whoa, like what exactly are we giving props for? Because it's like when they said like he was this burden I'm carrying, they made it sound like it's something that was involuntary, or like the burden is something that like like when Hild got her whole village wiped up, right? I mean, and when Thorfinn got Thor's and them killed, well, when Thor's was killed, it's like that's like the burden of trying to avenge your family, or burden of like your village was wiped, you're the sole survivor, that kind of thing on your shoulders. That's something you didn't choose that. You know what I'm saying? It just that's just the hand life dealt you. But so when they were talking about like their body counts, and they said, "Oh, the burden we're carrying," I was like, especially when he mentioned Thorfinn, I was like, the amount of people he has taken down, and then like to seeing that, oh, you're carrying these burdens. Oh no, like when he mentioned being a true warrior, due to him carrying that kind of burden, I was like, wow. But I do get what they were trying to say at the end. But it's like some of the wording makes me feel like it's almost honorable to like reach that point and not, and I guess feel guilt, because it took a while for Thorfinn to feel that guilt, or to learn the message of he was a kid, and then it took until it wasn't the beginning of Farmland. Was it like midway or towards the end when he started realizing that like he wants to change, being plagued by the guild. He wants to be peaceful, not. Actually, I think it was when he got hit like 100 times, and then he didn't.
Oh no, it was before that.
It was before that. Oh, okay. Yeah. So up to that point,
it was in the middle of Farmland. It was like
yeah.
It was like early middle-ish of Farmland.
Yeah. So Einar, that like we talked about, one body was all it took, bro. Like one was all it took. And then in Thorfinn's case, of course, it took a long. It was mostly because it was like the revenge for Askeladd was like completely blinding him, and then when Askeladd died, not even through his hands, that couldn't even like, his life purpose was just gone. And then now he's left. Not only did he not achieve his goal, but he now has all these lives on his hands that. And then he can't even say like it was worth it because I got my dad's killer because he did it. So, but like the on paper facts was that this man killed a lot of people to reach the same point that you reach after killing one person. And then, so hearing that, true warrior is so amazing, I'm like, is that what I would call him? I don't know. I'm not too sure.
I think you should probably just reread what they said, because what Einar was like getting at was basically like, one, the weight is just going to be far bigger than what Einar holds, right? Einar has the weight of one death on his shoulders.
Yeah.
Whereas Thorfinn has the weight of an uncountable number of people, right? Thorfinn could not even begin to estimate the number of people that he is the cause of death for, right? And it's not just the people that died by Thorfinn's hands, it's also the people that died because of Thorfinn's interventions, right?
Yeah.
When he would scout out villages for Askeladd and his crew, right? Yeah. all of those people in that village, you know, part of the reason why they're dead is because of Thorfinn, whether Thorfinn is the one that physically killed them or not, right? Things like that. The sheer number of people who could blame their death on Thorfinn is uncountable. And that is like the weight on Thorfinn's shoulders that he has to carry like every day, right? And like from Einar's perspective, he's a complete wreck right now after only having killed one person, right? Like he's a complete mental wreck. And then like he looks back at Thorfinn and he's like been with Thorfinn for years now. And he sees Thorfinn, even though Thorfinn has like this uncountable number of people on his shoulders, is pushing along every single day, right? And not just that, he's like pushing along towards like an ideal that Einar is like trying to justify himself against, right?
Yeah, he was.
Because like if I just pulled up the chapter, right? And Einar says, I finally understand what you were always saying about a war of no choice between it's wrong and no choice. How far can you get without choosing between the two? Right? And, you know, by saying, like, you could just reread that as between it's wrong and no choice. You could reread that as between not killing because it's wrong or I have to kill because I have no choice, right? Thorfinn is trying to find the solution where you don't have to pick either of these two options, right? The option of like, I won't like kill this person that's fighting me because it's wrong, or I will kill this person because I have no choice, right? Whereas Einar has been sitting here for a couple days now, like repeating to himself, I had no choice, I had no choice, I had no choice, right? Because he is trying to justify to himself, like, you know, he's trying to justify the fact that he just killed somebody, right? Whereas Thorfinn is trying to just find a way to avoid all this in the first place, right? Even though, like, maybe in that exact moment of the person right in front of him, and like Einar could tell himself, like, I had no choice, it was either me or him, right? But all, like, Einar did have a choice. And the choice was when they were in front of the Council of Natives. He says, like, you know, when Stark says, you know, did you have any other choice but fighting? Einar says, choice. That time, Thorfinn, you saw the large new army and decided to evacuate. I decided to fight. That was the choice, right?
Yeah.
That was the choice. So Einar did have a choice, and he made his choice. If that choice led to him killing somebody. That's kind of like the realizations he's making, right? He can't say he didn't have a choice killing this man because he did have a choice, right? He chose to fight, and because he chose to fight, he got put in a position where he has to kill somebody, right? And now he's bearing the weight of one person on his shoulders, whereas Thorfinn, who bears the weight of thousands of people on his shoulders, is trying to find the path where the choice is to not kill people and still like get what he wants, right? And that's why he says, like, you're amazing, you're really a true warrior.
So he has two true warrior cosigns from Hild and Heiner right now.
Yeah.
Can't get one from me though, but he got it.
That's crazy.
Hill's interest will effectuate EK since that's his past sins manifesting. Yep, exactly. And then, like I was mentioning too, that he wasn't as mentally strong as you would think, because he didn't even know how to react to Hill. Because and I'm actually glad that there was no like answer, because there really isn't. Like there's no textbook answer on how to react in that scenario that you honestly caused, because that's the consequence of your actions manifesting. But at the same time, you also have a grander goal that you want to achieve, and then you yourself believe that if you're alive to achieve that goal, then like it will help make up for what you've done before. But at the same time, you letting your victim get revenge, or avenging, you know, their family, their friends, whatever, is also a path you could take. So like he was very conflicted. Ended up choosing the path of just using his life as repentance, but Hunter was there, so that didn't happen. But yeah, that scene, yeah, that's still one of my more memorable scenes, because that, I don't know, like if a lot of people was in that scenario, I don't think they would react that way. Let me see. Have no enemies who's gonna be tested hard now. Actually, I don't think he's gonna. I'm confident. Like Thorfinn, he's not gonna kill nobody, bro. Sage, he's not gonna kill nobody, bro. Like
I don't think he's about to break right now.
Yeah, he's already lasted this long. Like, yeah, he's especially since he did have that talk with Heinar too. He realized that Heinar, you know, when he realized he killed someone, and then when Heinar told him like, "Please tell me I had no choice," he said, I can't, you know. There's not much I can do, you know. What was his exact word? Yeah, so even if now I told you that you are right, the weight of that deadly struggle will not vanish. That's true. So it's like, he had that last talk with Einar, and then if he was to add more weight on his shoulders after this, then that's just gonna be counterintuitive to his whole message, his whole theme. And Hilda is still watching too, so that's what's talking about. He'll be like, "What? I just co-signed you." Like, the hell? What? Hannah's another top notch. Feeding more for. Feeding more for. Low key, I was the same way, but I said I'll turn down the Hannah standard, because I did. His sacrifice was a noble sacrifice, but he said he's hidden more. Because like Thorfinn's probably gonna blame himself for Heinar's death, so he's like he's feeling more sad for Thorfinn having to deal with that, and then Heinar.
Yeah, I agree. This is Einar is probably the biggest failure that Thorfinn has to face from this.
Yeah. Because like you said, he really had no, like when you were talking about him not having a home. If we can say that like a person could be that, Einar was the closest, because he's the only one that really shared his views and everything, and he's been with Einar since Farmland, so that was probably his first friend, I'll say, in terms of like.
Yeah, it is his first friend.
Yeah, and
unless you want to count Canute, but I don't think we count Canute.
Yeah, he cool, but not the friends we talk about. But yeah. So. And then like when Thorfinn, because like when I saw Stark heading towards Einar, I was like, Thorfinn should be able to stop him, right? And I see him like flinch because he was hurt. I said, no way, he's nerfed. I was like, wow.
To be fair, like Thorfinn just recovered from being shot like 20 times.
Yeah.
Like this man shouldn't even be walking yet, but he's like, nah, I gotta go. I gotta end this war, bro.
Yeah, I couldn't hold him because I was thinking of just like nothing will happen to Heinar, right? Like Thorfinn, he should stop him. And then I see like the end. I was like, oh yeah, he just survived one of the most brutal, like, I don't even know what to call that. I was like, of course. And then Hild couldn't really, like, he turned around. I just did the most perfect like neck stab of all time. I'm like, Stark, how in the, like, while he's falling down, like he's being dragged by Einar as he's falling. I just did the most perfect kill shot. I'm like, wow, dang, Stark. That's kind of crazy. Thorfinn's one of those no one will ever know the violence it took to become this gentle. Getting closer to the goat Thors. I mean, you technically didn't see what Thors went through. But...
I'm willing to bet that like Thorfinn has gone through more than Thor.
Yeah, that's why I'm just like Thorfinn probably went through more.
Like Thor's the goat, but like I think Thorfinn is gone past Thor's in terms of the lesson that they have learned.
When's the last time we saw Thorfinn cry? Oh my goodness. I just peed. No, I'm not just peed, but just a reminder that he actually cried. I mean, it makes sense, but like on panel? Like you usually like, they'll turn the head.
Because the last time we saw him cry was when Hild forgave him.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh yeah, I love that. Oh yeah, he went through more for sure. Yeah, now about Hild. So about Hild's character in like just overall. How do you feel about like what Hild has been through and then what she's accomplished and what like her dynamic with the rest of the cast? Because I've always been like a Hild fan and I've always liked like the premise of her character. I feel like she has one of the best character premises in the series. But I was a bit unsure why. I mean, I know why from a writer perspective, but like Hild herself shouldn't like I feel like she was teetering along the line of that like I want to see if Thorfinn could actually change because again like you said of how radical Thorfinn was. It's like if you were to meet someone like that in real life you're like whoa like can he actually accomplish this? I doubt it, but if he does you do want to see it and then that like I want to avenge my village or yada. And then it felt for a long time that there was no. It's not like she had to pick a side, but I feel like in some scenarios she would be like very like quick to try to like when she's monitoring Thorfinn, she'll be very I guess strict in like how much Thorfinn can do and can't do, and then in some other scenes she'll be trying to kind of like see where he will go. And I think it was after the 2-year time skip with Greece, because after that I was like, does it really take this long for her to like choose? Because like even after the 2 years at Greece, she was still on that like, hey, like she always had the crossbow pointed at him getting ready to kill him. And I was like, wow, it's been so many years and she still hasn't made her own decision in her heart, whether not necessarily to forgive him, but whether she should stay by him or maybe move on or yada. I felt like she was stuck in that like quagmire for too long, in my opinion. I feel like I didn't mind her in it, but to take as long as it did, even though I did like the payoff though, so it net positive for me anyway. I feel like it should have taken as long as it did in terms of her deciding what stance she wants to take with Thorfinn. Thorfinn bit the house in 6. Yeah. So, but that's just me though. And then I don't know how you kind of feel about her character, what she's done. Because Hild was going through that. Like everyone like was like trying to hit on Hild because she didn't like Thorfinn, even though it's it was very obvious why she wouldn't like him. But yeah.
I mean, like from the get-go, Hild is literally just a foil to Thorfinn. She did the exact same thing that Thorfinn did. Thorfinn found the dude that murdered his dad and rode on his ship for like 10 years. Hild finds the guy that murdered her dad and then rode on his ship for like 3 years.
The difference is Hild could kill. Actually, yeah, maybe. But Thorfinn couldn't kill Haskelad though. That was the difference.
Yeah, that is a difference. Thorfinn couldn't kill Askeladd, while Hild could reasonably kill Thorfinn. But I think one of the problems with the length part of like how long it took her to forgive Thorfinn just comes from the fact that Yukimura clearly wanted her to not forgive him until they were in Vinland.
Yeah.
But then, like, to do that means that she's going to have to be around him for a really long ass time before forgiving him.
That's true.
Right?
You can just take like a
Um,
hiatus or something, so that makes sense.
yeah. But I guess you could like maybe introduce her into the story way later then. But like, what's the point of that,
Yeah,
right?
right. Okay.
I think where she, if we ignore time, right, and just think about it from a narrative, when she joins the story is like a pretty good timing, and when she decides to forgive Thorfinn is a pretty good time.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of have to ignore the fact that this took like 3 years. But like narratively, the times make sense, right? In terms of like what we see happen and like how their relationship develops, right? I would also say like we also have to remember the whole reason why she decided not to kill him, right? Was because everyone there told her, like, you know, when they first met her, like, Thorfinn's a changed man. This is what he believes in, and this is what he's going to like strive to accomplish. And like those are just words,
yeah.
Right? And Hild wants to see action, right? And these are not. It's not just the action of like the day to day, right? Like these things that we're talking about are things that are like only truly tested in the most dire of situations.
Yeah, that is true.
Which is why she has to be like so strict, like when he was fighting Garm or when he was fighting Floki, right? And even like with the way that Thorfinn talks about things, right? When Thorfinn and Ivar had their first argument over the sword, Thorfinn starts talking about the sword like, oh, the sword has the mystical power to tell you to kill people, and then you kill people. And what was Hild's first response? Are you saying that the sword told you to kill my dad? Are you saying it's all the sword's fault that you did all those things? Which, like, from her perspective, hearing Thorfinn say this dialogue, like, although that's not what Thorfinn actually believes, right? He's just trying to convey some messages to Ivar in response to, like, why he doesn't want swords around, right? But, like, you know, when Hild hears this, obviously she's gonna get pissed. I'd get pissed too. I'd be like, hold on, wait. You've been trying to tell me you've been repenting for 3 years, but now you're sitting here saying like, oh, it wasn't you who killed the people, it was a weapon, you know? Like, shit, man. I'd start saying guns don't kill people either. I'd be like, guns don't kill people, people kill people. You know what I'm saying? But like, I think like Hild's level of strictness makes complete sense in terms of like what she's actually testing of Thorfinn, which is something and really hard.
He did sign up for it because he did tell her that like this is the life he wants to live. She's like, I bet, like I'll be real strict then. And then,
and it's something that's like going to require a lot of proof.
That's
from
true.
A lot of different situations to like really set in stone. Like, he's changed, and this is what he's all about. But also for her own feelings too, to like kind of wash away, right? Like, Thorfinn destroyed her entire life. Her dad, mom, I think she had a sister too, all dead. Why? Thorfinn and Asala showed up, right? Thorfinn killed her dad.
And inherit like the blacksmith like whole thing in the future, and that like her dad was doing, but now she don't got anything to inherit anymore. So
like
dreams gone.
Literally, when Asalot and Thorfinn burned down her whole village, like they burned down her entire life. So like, you know, emotions like that aren't just gonna die down because of like some nice word.
Nice word.
And they're not like, you know, time heals all wounds, which is what they say in the story. Time heals all wounds, but like time doesn't mean like 4 days, man. Time means like a lot of time. So like 2 to 3 years is like perfectly reasonable, I think, given like the context of their relationship with one another, right? So I think the timeline makes sense. Narratively, the timings make sense. And what I actually really liked that Yukimura did, which is he did not actually tell us that Hild believes in the same thing that Thorfinn does.
Yeah.
Which we then see with the fact that like as soon as war is like starting to like become a possibility,
She's straight
right?
to kill it.
She's straight to like, I'm going to nip these buds like at their roots, right? She's like, oh, if I just kill the sources of the war, then there's not gonna be a war, which like, you know, is not kind of like true. That's all I can really say to her.
Yeah,
true.
Like, if the seer Ivar and Stark and the brother, no, it was the disease that really screwed us over. So they use the disease as a means to just, or as a good excuse to just come in and pillage everything. But yeah, but I do agree. It's funny because who else had a? I guess it was Ivar. Okay, never mind. I thought someone else had like their own like war theory that is kind of true, but that we see work out. That's not the case. And then there was one last. Wait, hold up. Oh yeah, all right. It's all about breaking the cycle of hate as well. Come on, cycle of hate. We bring your Naruto in here, bro. Actually, yeah, because like she kills Thorfinn and Carly. Carly gotta avenge Thorfinn. That'd be too much, bro. It's like not Carly, bro. But and one thing is Kudrid. I'm always curious. Like it's not really a big deal, but I've always been curious how you feel about Kudrid. Like, is she just like just cool, or you got some deep thoughts about Gudrid, or you think Thorfinn can do better?
Okay, I wanted to avoid this topic. I if I speak, I'm gonna be in trouble, bro.
I'm glad the things I've said it has not been recorded yet, so we good.
I don't like Gudrid because Gudrid is just kind of like she doesn't think. So like I fuck with Gudrid and how she supports Thorfinn and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like I think Gudrid is like almost there, right? But my problem with Gudrid is like she doesn't actually really think about why she supports Thorfinn and like what Thorfinn is trying to do. Right? Like at the end of the day, if we look back at it, Gudrid was like, damn, this Thorfinn guy, he's kind of cool. I'm gonna listen to him. And like, oh, this Thorfinn guy, he says like, this is how we achieve peace. I'm gonna support him. Like, oh, my cute little Thorfinn, he gets nightmares at night. I'll like hug him, you know, like that's Gudrid as a character. I feel like, where like, she is doing the things that I'm happy to see from the wife of Thorfinn, right? From like the actions that she takes, right, and the stances that she takes, I like it, right? Because that's what Thorfinn would need from like the woman in his life, right?
Yeah.
But like the reason why she follows Thorfinn is like, oh, he's a cool guy, and not like sometimes like you just have to really question like does she understand what Thorfinn is talking about? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like when I look at Gudrun, sometimes I really have to question that, you know? And that's like my problem with Gudrun.
That's fair though. That is fair. And then I know she had a little skit with Hild when she thought Hild was competition when she tried to murder him.
Yeah.
I was like, no, she's danger. She's not competition. She is danger. All right. So I know overall the arc has been very positive for you, and I also never like think about it more after this talk. I do add a few more points. I never hated it, and I think I was expecting the wrong things, but I don't recall reading like chapters that were like I felt was bad. You know what I'm saying? Like I felt like I enjoyed, especially like the build up. I really like the build up. It's just that when I was what I was expecting out of certain characters didn't like in my like fan fiction in my head. It didn't turn out exactly that way. Just like how I mentioned Hyvar, but then when I went back, he did talk with Stark, which was like the main. Honestly, like he was the guy to talk to. So I was like, okay, that was good. And of course, I know like what happened with there, but it was more so the how to say. I said I guess in comparison to the other arcs, no, like I'll say this arc itself didn't really. I guess I was expecting like a several up, like it would like increase how it definitely didn't decrease it. That's my thing. Like I didn't think that this arc made me like dock points from Yukimura, but I don't think I added too many. But now that I'm looking at it, if especially if we're gonna end it soon, and I'm looking at like what we've been through, what the arc was supposed to mean, and all of that, in like if I was just to contain it by itself, it's actually a lot of the storylines actually ended um in a decent way. Like I'm not too I don't have too many complaints outside of just like that hypothetical that maybe like something in there could have been uh more of a climax, because the main climax would be what pretty much just happened, right? Because like the disease, of course, that was another one that was big. Like, I remember when the disease chapters dropped, I was like, whoa. But I think, yeah, like we already talked about how the Tenu was handled. It was like he actually did not fall under that. I don't want to say trap, but you know how some Native Americans are represented in a lot of media, and he avoided that, so that was great. And I did like the dynamics between them, even though I wouldn't say. And then the girl was cool too. I liked her, so
Yeah, I liked her a lot as well.
yeah. So it was great that, and that was the new party of the arc, and then he handled that one. Greatest fun arc of the deck. See, of course, Malcolm will come and troll. Unfortunately, not of the decade, but you see, and then with how I'll say the politics with the the farmers. I mean, it wasn't bad either. We got Ivar, especially Ivar Stark. Yeah, they kind of help guide to the current climax that we did, and then how, especially when Stark had when they snitched about the sword, and Thorfinn was about to like get the sword back, then Stark immediately used public opinion to kind of like shut Thorfinn down. Like, no guys, like hey, like come agree with me. These, we need defense. What's wrong with building a fort? Yeah, and of course, since Thorfinn wasn't as transparent, like we talked about, it wasn't as transparent as he could have been. People just thought it just made sense to have some sort of defense. And of course, the Lin was seeing these Nords now building defense, and who would they be defending against? The Tenu, of course. So now it was like, that just causing conflicts. But honestly, it might just be that it's with how is it not too short, but I mean it is only like 40ish chapters. But yeah, in terms of everything that happened, maybe more things could have happened within that time. I'm not too sure. Like I just feel like there's something that doesn't click too well, but I can't really pinpoint where that be for me. But did you have any? Because I know you mentioned you weren't too fond of Heinar and Harnide's. You know how much he values Harnide, but was there anything else about
I just think that man's a simp and needs to move on, bro. That's really just it.
That's really just it. I definitely agree. But is there anything about the arc itself that you think deserves to be pointed out? Because you know I'm not like those people that read arcs just to find something to point out. You know I don't really do that.
Yeah.
But is there something that comes to mind when you think of something that could have been done a bit better, or you think wasn't done too well?
Like I said before, I think Thorfinn should have been way more transparent about like who he was with everybody. I think that would have been a much better strategy at like getting people on board with like his beliefs. And also getting people on board with his authority, because again, people just think he's like a weak little bitch that's scared. They don't realize that he is the man that went toe to toe with Thorkel and lived and even injured him, right? Like people don't know these things about him, so they make a lot of assumptions about him. And people don't want to like listen to the true words that he's saying because they don't understand where he's coming from. If he just kind of sat down everyone more, especially considering like they were there for a whole year, it took them multiple weeks to even get to Vinland. Like, there's only like
you said it took
a couple dozen people. They've been there for a whole year.
Oh, okay.
It took them like 3 weeks to get there in the first place. Like, he has spent a large amount of time with these people, and it feels like he's not really talked a lot with them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that is true. Honestly, they almost felt more like not really Penny and Tag. I mean, of course, Ivar and Stark were. But and especially since they had public opinion on their side towards like the middle of the arc, so a good amount of the group, they weren't, I won't say against Thorfinn like directly, but they did side with people that did not look favorably to Thorfinn, which was Ivar and Stark. So as the reader, we kind of see just how messy like the group of farmers became due to like just how like the politics in our group was being handled. You know, we have one side saying this, one side saying that. One, you know, Hild saying that if they don't take the fort down, she'll kill them in a year. They don't want to take the fort down because Stark wants to make Ivar be king of everything. He wants to, you know, put him on that pedestal. And it's funny too, yeah, because like when you mentioned Stark was the mastermind behind everything, I went back to the chapter when Stark was very aware that all the Linden wanted peace except the Seer. Like, he was very aware. And then Ivar had no clue, because when Stark said his slave, Ivar's like, wait, she don't want war? And he was like, wait, did I say that? I was like, wow. Like, Stark of course wants the war, so he knew about the Seer, and I wanted to use that to help promote the war. So with the chaos, they're gonna choose Ivar to lead. I mean, we already did, but it was just like you mentioned, their dynamic was pretty interesting. Seeing that, and I didn't really see it that way. I mean, I just saw him as like the smart one, but when I was actually going, like you mentioned, when you actually go back and look, he's actually guiding Ivar. Like, it wasn't like the smart guy that gives advice, but it's like he's actually just controlling everything low key. So I was just like, whoa.
Yeah. I remember the time when I realized it, and when most people seem to have realized it, was the chapter where Stark and Hild start debating, where like they both tag out Ivar and Thorfinn, because they start to see both of them like not being able to to win their respective debate. Both tag each other in. Which is around when the fort was being built. Actually, yeah, it was when the fort was first being built. That was when that debate happened. But yeah, other than that, I would say anything else that I would have liked to see from the arc would just be. I don't think there's like really much anything else that I would have liked to see. I think you mostly saw everything that I wanted to see, right?
Yeah.
I think if you were to ask me about like Vinland Saga as a whole,
Yeah,
I would say like cut Baltic Sea by at least half, if not more, and actually give us Greece.
How long?
Not just a panel.
Like, did you know like chapter wise? Like a rough guess. Actually, I can see Baltic Sea Part 36. Damn.
I think it's even bigger than that.
Portugal, Norway.
Because Baltic Sea.
Secrets of Part 2. Secrets from
Oh no, yeah, it is just 36, I guess. So yeah, 36 chapters, which is a lot for a monthly manga.
Yeah, that is 3 years.
Yeah. And like
with no breaks, and you know you took some breaks.
Exactly, and like, you know, I look at Baltic Sea and I'm just like, this shit could have been resolved with way less chapters, significantly less, and like, it really sucks that we thought we were going to go to Greece, and then that man said, "Nah, be back in Iceland, 2-year time skip." Like, okay, man. But other than that, more or less satisfied with the series, and I'm just kind of waiting for it to end now.
Yeah.
I highly suspect that he will not fumble the ending.
Yeah.
Although, at this point, you and me have seen many mangaka suddenly, like, you know, last 10 chapters of the series, they decide to just throw everything away. So, you know, maybe Yukimura does the same, but I don't think he's about to.
Yeah, we good. Yeah, I'm glad I got your perspective, because yeah, because with how, maybe it's because I don't really, a lot of people that, because I pretty much just talk to Liz and sometimes Naz about Finland, but Liz fell off it. He don't like the series no more. And Naz kind of the same too, so I don't really so the dialogue I would end up having would be why I don't like this this storyline or this plot line instead of like the opposite. So just kind of getting it from one side. But when kind of going back again, there's not too many outside of the farmers, because like even then, because like again, I like how the Nina was handled, and then like with the farmers, apart from Thorfinn just kind of managing that group better. But the fact that Stark and Ivar was able to kind of control the public in the way they did to reach an ending that Thorfinn did not want also kind of shows how difficult his dream and like how harsh reality could could hit him, because a lot of people, you know, main character attacks, just come in, just say words, and everyone just believes them. Like no real issue there. Yukimaru's like, nah, like this man is very radical in this time period. A lot of people are not gonna, you know, buy what he's selling. And of course, we have some great scenes with like Hild, and then the disease being like the needle that broke the camera's back. Is that? No, the straw that broke the camera's back. And then I actually like that new anti chief, the one that stole the sword. Like I remember one guy that came in, he said, and then he didn't want the guy to come in and like to take the spoils, I think, and they said, nah, you can come in because you might spread the disease. I was like, is this what we're saying now? Like, he's just using that to using the disease to. Oh yeah, and then how he just nominated himself as like the chief of all Linu. I was like,
bro, that man, he went in, he knew exactly what he wanted, and he's taking every step to do it. I gotta respect it, man.
Yeah, I had to. I was like, I thought I wouldn't, but after a while, I'm just like, and then he knew when to pull back because with Cordelia, I mean, we're not gonna talk about how she's able to tank all that damage, but we team Cordelia, so I'm not gonna ask questions. But he's just like, you know what? Let's just walk away. Like, we can't beat her. All right, let's just leave. And then they just walked away. No damage to their crew. They lost no HP. We good. But then some people will actually choose to crash out there. They're like, nah, like there's no way, there's no way she'll be able to tank our hits. And then like they all come in, and maybe someone comes in to save her, yada yada. Now all y'all hurt, yada yada. Like he knows when to pull back, knows when not to pull back, knows how to play the word games. I could respect it. I could. And then even when he went 1v1 with Ivar, you would think Ivar, being the war guy he is, might not lose, but nah, that guy was fierce, bro. He was fierce. It's funny now, he cut his hand after he cut the Seer's hand, so almost like revenge.
Same sword.
Yeah. Oh, you are right. Same sword. Yeah. So yeah, now that I'm thinking back at it, I don't actually have too many issues. Especially, I think it's because that last chapter kind of concluded, because Einar was also, I mean, in the moment, even though I understood where he came from, I wasn't sure where we were going, because like you said, we see this, especially for our, well, I guess in my head I put too much stock in it being for our Arnide, and it was also more so of how long they've taken to cultivate this land, and they've been here for almost 2 years, that kind of stuff. But they weren't defending it anyway, but of course you want to at least try it. So I get it, but I did really like how it ended his character. So overall, I really have no problems on his front. And then with Hild, like we discussed, narratively, like it wasn't really a big deal for her to forgive her when she did. It's just like, when we actually look at the end time years, just like, dang, like that's a while. Outside of that, I've always enjoyed Hild, so it was cool that it didn't take too long in this arc specifically for her to give him the forgiveness. Like, it's not like it waited until after this current war for her to do it. Yeah, so I guess it was just mainly the farmers. I'll say but even then, like, it's not really a big deal. So, yeah, overall,
I don't think the farmers ever did anything like.
Yeah, it's more right? So like, it's not like I thought I would like more of them, because that's not really it. But like the ones that he focused on were good. So like I like Cordelia. In hindsight, Stark and Ivar. I was after what happened to 18, I was like, screw all Stark and Ivar. Screw all my homies hate Stark and Ivar. I mean, we still do, but character wise, like especially
unironically, I think Stark is one of my favorite characters in the entire series.
Yeah, I'm thinking that like I think I have Stark stocks up a lot more now that like I kind of is that brother doing one of the Steaks in terms of how much you like him, then that'll be the case. But yeah, like after you kind of broke down how you felt about Ivar and like how he was doing. Even like back in Iceland, because I didn't even know that he was the one that told Ivar about Thorfinn's journey and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, like it really was him from the beginning, and then that dynamic is quite cool. So, and yeah, so you focus on Ivar, Cordelia, even Carly. Carly has some good scenes too during the whole farming thing, and then the dynamic between them. So the farming part, it wasn't like pro Thorfinn. Okay, that's probably it. That's like. It wasn't Thorfinn friendly. Like a lot of the arc wasn't Thorfinn friendly. But like you said, historically we knew Thorfinn was not gonna fail. So there's gonna be a lot of non-Thorfinn friendly activities going on here. But there's how the farmers are thinking, how everyone them are thinking, how the Sinu end up being in the end, stuff like that. Thorfinn was destined to not pass. But as you're reading it, you're thinking, you're hearing this dialogue, you're getting high. Oh, we gonna bring peace to the whole world, that kind of thing. But no, sir, that is not how it works.
Not how it works, indeed. I think that's probably some of the reason why people would not like this arc. Or like we read stories to see our main characters succeed, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we always want like our main characters to win, and so like that's why it's going this arc in particular going to be a very difficult arc for some people, right? Because you have to sign up for a story where like your main character is going to lose, and it's not the classic like, oh, they keep getting beaten up until they finally win it.
Yeah, not
they're
that
going
one.
to lose.
Yeah, not that classic one. It's like, oh, technically we lost, but like no deaths, no one's really hurt. Y'all get together very quickly afterwards. You still win in the end. It's like y'all struggled, but y'all didn't lose. Y'all just struggled to win. But this is just a loss. Like there's no kind of redeeming this.
Yeah, like from that perspective, I could see why people would have problems with this arc and have like mixed feelings about things.
Mm-hmm.
But like obviously, I feel bad seeing Thorfinn lose and have like all these feelings as well. But I just kind of sit myself back and say, like, regardless of like my emotional response to seeing these things, right? Seeing Thorfinn losing at his plans and his goals, seeing Einar kind of like take a step back and turn away from Thorfinn and all these things. Like if I just look at what's happening, like of course this is what's gonna happen. What I signed up for,
Yeah.
And the question is Yukimura writing it well? And I think that he has been writing it very well. I've been very satisfied with how he's decided to go about things.
I do agree. Honestly, I haven't really been disappointed with his writing, like from a story perspective. Just when you're reading chap by chap, you might get the certain scenes where like a character stock will go down and go back up later, that kind of thing. That for me, you already know. I was like, Heiner said what? And then later on, he's back to being so good.
Really, my only complaint is this man puts out 25-page chapters every month, and I'm just like, brother, where are the other 20 pages, man? The monthly manga, bro.
It used to be. Actually no. It normally is that. It was back when H&K was dropping alongside it. Then it was like the 15 versus 26. Like it was like 15 pages, and then I was just crack a joke, whatever. Oh yeah, and then I like also when you mentioned that like the seer was like one of the only people he truly convinced, and it's funny because the seer again gave up their arm for this war, and it was just like dang, like Thorfinn really is not my enemy. Like, he's really serious. Especially after what Thorfinn just went through, like in the seer's position, there's no way this guy does not hate you. There's no way. It's like you just shot him how many arrows? He just woke up from a coma, like, nah.
I'm kicking him out of his new home.
Yeah, we time to get out. He's all right. We'll leave. It's like what?
And then he quotes their fucking greater spirit. He's like, "Oh no, man, I'm cooked. I was wrong."
Drop bars from the great spirits, bro. He's like, whoa.
How is this possible, bro? He lives on the other side of the world. How does he know these things?
mistaken. That was a good panel. I was mistaken. Interesting. It's funny because Stark and Ivar, which was also like they were grouped up with the Seer, like he'll group them up through as like the buds of war, or like they would like they will be the ones to cause the war, and the Seer was the one that regretted, for that they were mistaken. They had the wrong idea with Stark and Ivar for the crash outs, and they were on Thorfinn's team. He's like the farmers on your team that you brought here were the ones that crashed out with the war, but in the Seer at the end.
Well, to be fair, when Ivar was realizing that he was the cause of war, he was having a very big change of heart on the situation.
That is true. Right? You mean like when you're talking to Stark, right? About it?
When he was talking to Stark.
Yeah.
Or Stark accidentally revealed like that they were the cause of the war. Because Ivar said like, yeah, I like war. I aspire to be like a warrior hero or whatever, right? But I don't want to be the cause of war. Which I think is somewhat contradictory, but like.
No, I kind of get it. Yeah, it's one of those that's like they would like they would love to like defend themselves, or they'd love to like if a war happens, they won't shy away from it. But to actively pursue it, that's probably like a line. You know, like some people have like the lines they don't want to cross. Yeah, that's probably his. Where it's just like, I'm not bad enough of a person that I will purposely start a war. Like that's just not me. But I will participate in one though. I will gladly go and get my kill count up. But just to start a war, nah, that's not me. I'm trying to see if I can go back to that. Not good. He's eloquent. that Hilda and Stark chapter was so funny. Like Hilda knew that Stark was a problem. Like, oh, this man can talk. He's making sense. I was just like, yo. It's funny too because with how Thorfinn speaks, like he's talking about his grand goals, his ideals. It's so beautiful to hear. And then you're like, wow, like. This man wants world peace. He wants no, stuff like that. But that doesn't necessarily translate to eloquence. Or, I mean, in a way it does. They're definitely correlated. But you would think that, like, Stark wouldn't be able to, like, I don't want to say out talk. But, like, in terms of, like, the eloquence, Stark wouldn't be at that level that Thorfinn's at. Just because of, how Thorfinn, how he usually speaks about like those like grand goals and grand ideals, but it doesn't necessarily translate. Like just because you have grand ideals, grand goals, doesn't necessarily translate that you'll be able to talk about them or win people's hearts as easily as someone else, or easier than someone else because of like your grand vision. Because Hilda has been like she had for front row seats in terms of like hearing how Thorfinn talks, Thorfinn's ideas. Like she's been there for a very long time. But like when Stark was talking, even Hill was like, "Whoa, this is gonna be a problem. This man's eloquent. Like he can talk." So like she's clearly comparing him to Thorfinn when she made that comment, and then it's kind of funny to see that the main character that you naturally believe that, especially since Stark and Ivar are like newer characters that weren't necessarily stated to have like I don't want to say speech fees. That sounds stupid. Have like not like scholars, but nah, they were able to like Stark he just had it. Like he was able to really go toe to toe with Thorfinn in terms of trying to speech, trying to win people's hearts through words and stuff like that. To the point even Hill felt the pressure, which was pretty cool. That was good. He really should have just left them, bro. We did not need Stark and Ivar here. Do you know where they hid the sword? Was it in the hay? I forgot exactly where they hid it.
They hid it behind a rock. and then went back to grab it. Gudrid did not make a very good check.
Oh yeah, I remember. I even had a tweet about how Guja was checking them. Yeah, I remember. I had to point that out too because her check was quite interesting. I was like, okay. Hold on, let me see if it's still.
No pat down, no nothing, dude.
She was like, surely they would just listen to Thorfinn because I would, so they would too. So that's not how it works, Gudrid. Alright, let me see. Oh yeah, I like that one chapter when I don't know why I I thought that like when I want to raid Gudrid's house, I was just kind of like she will be fine. I mean, of course, but I was like, whoa, Gudrid might die. Or she should have named the kid after Cordelia. I was like, are we that cool yet? Like, I like Cordelia too. I was like, dang, okay.
I am glad that Thorfinn's child was birthed without complication.
Yeah.
That was like one of the things I was actually kind of scared about. I was like, wait, is Yukimura about to do this?
Yeah, like I was actually quite. I was like,
like, is this how Thorfinn breaks, bro? Like, is this what's about to happen? Because if Thorfinn broke after that, I'd be like, you know what, Thorfinn, you got it, bro. Like,
yeah,
I ain't gonna stop you. Go off, King. Like, then we would have just gotten like multiple chapters of Thorfinn aura forming as he just slaughters the whole fucking Lanu by himself, bro. Like, hey, okay, I think that's what a certain part of the fan base would have wanted.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like they would have called it a 10 out of 10 arc, no matter what happened before that, no matter how like much it made sense or how much it flowed well or not. If they got that, it'd be like absolutely 10 out of 10, best arc. Y'all come in. I'd be like, dang. No, okay. So we pretty much covered what I wanted to cover. Let me see if I missed anything. Nah, this was good. I had to reevaluate a lot, which I always like doing. Let me see. Do you think the disease stuff was too quick? I didn't really have the idea.
I think it was really late.
No. I mean, like,
oh, like it like flew by really fast.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, kind of. But I think that's because he also like. I think actually, yeah. So I think if I was to give like a real complaint, other than like Thorfinn should have been more transparent with everybody, like the disease stuff didn't make a whole lot of sense if we really think about it. Because like, why did it take a whole year before the disease really started to become a problem for the Lanu? Like, the disease stuff very conveniently just didn't start really becoming an issue until after the old man seer got his hand cut off.
Yeah, sure.
And that's a very much like a weird writing instance, right? Where like we're just kind of supposed to sit there and believe it, you know?
Wait, it started spreading after they came back from like those like ships that they sent to scout came back, and then like the ships were wiped except that one guy. Was that what started it all? Like in terms of
the Lanu that we knew of, their disease spread wasn't made apparent to us until after the old man seer's hand was cut. the Markland people, we found out that they all disappeared a while ago, but we did not know like about the disease or anything. It was left as like a mystery. Like, there's no dead bodies in Markland, right? They were like, oh, like all the people that we left in Markland left. We don't know where they are, but there's 0 dead bodies anywhere. But there's like a shit ton of arrows all over the place, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like, they didn't really know what the hell happened until like the one survivor came in again. Conveniently, he was found and brought back to Vinland at the same time as everyone already finding out about the disease. So, you know, I think that was like a really big push on the suspension of belief, you know?
So
The disease just doesn't hit the Lanu by Vinland for like a whole year, but it hit the ones in Markland like a lot sooner, and the one survivor just happens to come back to Vinland like at the time when the Lanu are finally getting hit by the disease. It's just like, okay, man.
Okay, so they had different Tenu tribes in Parkland, right? And then and then those ones got hit, and then
they just got wiped out.
Yeah, they got wiped out. Then the new tribes over here, then okay, I see what you're saying. You're blaming spirits. Yeah,
they were blaming spirits, which like I mean,
what else would you blame it on? No one knew about bacteria.
That's what medicine was like back then, man. It was spirits or curses or gods hating you or devils or whatever, man.
I remember you come over with the circle, like during the disease, they had that one girl that was sick. And it's like, but that girl, she just came here to my shot her arrow to the head. I was like, you don't have to show me this, you know? You could just, you know, just kind of off screen it maybe. I was talking about the whole canoe plot resolved. Manga has been so long since it's been the manga, so I forgot where it's from. They left him off when he solved the disease that I don't know what island it was, but Canute he also had disease problems. Then he just decided to
because he was dealing with the Black Plague.
He was dealing with the Black Plague. He decided to just wipe out everyone that was in quarantine, just kill them all so they can't spread the disease. Of course, masked up, so we don't get it, you know. Got to be hygienic, but that's about it. And then of course they showed him right after they showing how the disease was attacking the Tenu for of course the clear parallel for whatever you wanna go with. But the fact that
parallel and also to like you know have Canute ask the question that he did, which was, I wonder what Thorfinn would think, how Thorfinn would handle, because Canute's answer was we were clearly being shown Canute's answer.
Yeah,
it was, gather all the sick people in one area and kill them all so that the disease doesn't spread.
Mm-hmm.
What's Thorfinn's answer?
Yeah. Run away, like you mentioned. So we're thinking, Ige was saying that we're probably going to meet Canute again, you know, since we were showing him. he didn't have to show him, but he showed us that, hey, he's still a character, look what he's doing. And, you know, Thorfinn's whole make a country for war and stuff like that, Canute was a big reason why he wants to, or at least that idea specifically got formed. Because Canute's own idea was almost like that. Like, Canute was saying he was saying that war was inevitable and he has to do it even though he doesn't like war. Then Thorfinn seeing how Canute is being forced to, like, use war or use violence to achieve peace. Just like, is this really like the way, you know, it needs to happen? Like, what if he can achieve the same thing without war? And then he wants to make his own, you know, peaceful country and stuff like that. So they definitely do have to, you know, after Thorfinn just failed drastically here, they're definitely gonna have to meet at least one last time just to give an update. Final anti. No, I don't think it'll be like anti. Like, I think we're done with the anti stuff with Canute and Thorfinn. I don't think there's no.
Well, I would say like I don't think they've ever really been.
Yeah, me too.
Antags against one another. Like the closest they got was in Farmland, where Canute was attacking Kettle's farm, and Thorfinn happened to be there as a slave on the farm. But
yeah, that was pretty much it. Like, they really don't have no beef that they want to kill each other for. Like, not at all.
No.
They actually really respect each other too. Like, they're not gonna kill each other, especially now.
They both recognize that at the end of the day, they both kind of want the same thing.
Yeah.
They just kind of have like different beliefs on what's necessary. Where Canute is very willing to do horrendous things to achieve his goals, where for Thorfinn, half of his goal is figuring out how to get to his goal without violence in the first place.
Yeah. I still remember Canute's Twink era when everyone just saying the craziest comments on them on Twitter, like while they were reading Venom for the first time, and then eventually they they reached the quote unquote Chad Canute, and then they can't really win that gender no more. I was like, dang, this man has grown.
I will say this: the very first time I went through Vinland and I saw Canute switch up, I at first hated it. I was just like, bro, people just don't change like that all of a sudden. Like, bro, what do you mean he just switched up like that, like, in one moment? But then, like, when I re-watched the anime again, I think, a couple years later, I saw it again. Now I was like, yeah, you know what? Sometimes things happen in life where, like, you just have that one core experience in your life and you just switch up like that. Like, it is what it is, you know? But yeah, I think Canute's a very funny character for that reason.
He's a de-twinkified. What is wrong with you, Liz? What the hell? Such a word? That's crazy. I wanted to bring up one last thing. Oh yeah, what exactly was Canute's birth situation again? I kind of forgot. Was he like a concubine kid, or was he just a?
He was just like the second son.
Okay, and then
yeah, like he just had his older brother who was in line for the throne, but then his older brother died from illness. But like because he was a part of the court, he just saw all the court shenanigans.
Okay, I see.
Right. Well, like he was like a kid with like a kind heart, and like you know he witnessed things that like he probably shouldn't have, and it like traumatized him, I guess.
Okay. Goodness, yeah, that disease. So if the disease happened early, yeah. Yugmar wanted to wait to everyone. You know, they built the village for like a long time now. You know, everyone's very attached. Then we get the disease. Yeah.
He really used it as a narrative tool, which is like, you know, fair. Like this is a story at the end of the day, and this is like a fictional telling of the story too, right?
Yeah.
The real like Thorfinn, Karlsefni, was like nothing like this, right? I'm sure if we read the actual Vinland sagas, it would be a very different story than like what we're reading right now. But like even then, bro, it's like I think like the disease from their contact with one another would have manifested a lot faster than 1 year, you know? That's what I think.
I went back to when Iris was like, "Oh, that's great. We live, they die. Ain't that a convenient disease?" This man is just alright. You got it.
That actually like kind of reminds me of one of the things that I kind of wanted to point out, which is like, you know, even though Ivar was saying all these things about like war and like how like men desire glory in the battlefield and stuff, right? And like how I was saying, like, you know, most of the Vinland people are just farmers. Like that goes also for Ivar and Sturk, for as far as we know, right?
Yeah.
Because Yukimura never told us that they specifically went out to war themselves, right?
Yeah.
As far as we know, Ivar and Sturk are not veterans. They did not go out to war. They weren't mercenaries or anything like that, right? They were just like some random muscle on Iceland, right? So like they kind of knew how to fight, but at the end of the day, they're not from war, you know. They haven't experienced war as far as we could tell. It really kind of showcases in the way that they kind of go through the war, where they went through simple tactics that on paper look good, but then kind of fall apart when the trickiness of war starts to unveil itself, right?
Yeah.
Like how you're saying, like they just think like, oh, you know, the disease will kill them. This is gonna be super easy. It's just like y'all don't realize how hard a war of attrition really is. A war of attrition is not that simple. And because of that, they suffered the consequences, right? Like 2/3 of the Nords died, and both Sturk and Ivar died. So I think that's like a nice thing that I kind of interpret from Yukimura. He like very subtly, like without telling us, obviously that Stark and Ivar don't actually know a whole lot about war.
Yeah.
But like he never actually has anybody spell it out. But like from what we see as the results, like
Yeah,
and kind of like what they say about the battles and stuff, it's like kind of apparent now. Like you know what? It makes sense. Like they probably weren't actually soldiers at any point.
Yeah.
They don't actually know what they're doing.
Saga Ever is so funny in hindsight. Like they achieved, like in their own goals. They were almost there. Like they just couldn't win at the end. But they really, like, when they sneaking the weapons in, slowly draining Thorfinn's power, increasing Ivar's prestige. You know, slowly but surely they were getting the Tennu to advocate for war, even though most of them wanted peace, by using the Old Man Seer. Like all that, like step by step, their goals was being like accomplished. It's just when it was wartime, you know, like Gamora's trying to tell folk, you don't get nothing from war, man. You just lose, and you lose some more. Yeah, they were quite successful for pioneer hand tags. They're actually very successful, but you know, towards the end, couldn't do too much. Well, I mean, they caused irreversible damage, but you know, yeah. So the women escaped, right? Like, but
Yeah,
both,
the women
yeah,
are
they were,
on a like an island off the
yeah. Dang, when Dorothy has to go over to Gudrun, she's gonna ask for Heinar and go break down again. Ah. Yeah, so I think we pretty much covered everything I wanted to cover. Again, overall, the arc, I've done my re-evaluation. You know, I've never, I never had it as a bad arc or even a decent arc, but I think I can give it more points than I had before. Because I thought it was like pretty decent, but then that was about it. I think it's I like what it's doing. You know, because I had to sit on 218 for a while too. Because again, I kind of, because 218 closed off a lot of storylines. You know, because with Einar, of course, because of Einar. Because if you look at like what Stark had to go through, of course, with Ivar, like what Stark was involved in with Ivar, what Einar was involved in, like they both were involved in different like storylines or different plot lines. Of course, some meshed together, and they all fell in the same chapter. So, yeah, the chapter ended like the story or the plot lines for those characters that were involved in a lot. So after a chapter like that, of course, since you're not gonna see those characters again, you have to take a step back, see what the characters have done for you, done for the story, done for the arc, see how you feel about them, how you feel about the devs, what they've done, yada yada. And then you have to talking it out, stuff like that. I definitely appreciate Stark a lot more than I did before. Because yeah, in my head again, he was just a smart guy. Like that's the smart guy, and then I've always just like the strong guy. But honestly, he's not even as strong as you would think. He's just more like the war fanatic. Isn't really what I would say either. But he was pro war, but he still had a decent heart. Like Ivar is not necessarily a. If you actually think about it, he does have the best interest of. Well, I would say the best. He wants the best interest of the team. You know, like he's not like an enemy of progress that wants people to or the group of farmers to suffer. He just has a clear like he doesn't see the Linu tribe as people we can get along with. So to him, if they can all go disappear and then the farmers are the only ones left, that's a dub. But that's obviously not the case for Thorfinn and them. So that's where the big clash comes in. But Ivar himself isn't actually like an enemy of the farmers. Like he's very like pro team farmers, like farmer supremacy. Like the issue is that he's two team farmers. Like that's an issue. And then yeah, so him and Stark, yeah, I more so Stark than Ivar. It's just that I'm a bit too harsh on Ivar, but like he is just he hasn't been through much. So like his view on war is very just basic in terms of how people in his situation or his community will view war as well, or at least men that are his age.
No, his view on war is a bit more advanced.
A bit more advanced.
Yeah, because he understands like the economic implication of military might. Where like the first argument he has with Thorfinn on the whole, like you can't bring a sword to Vinland, is like him literally saying like trade cannot exist unless
Oh, okay, I see.
Without military might saying like you can't fuck with me, right?
Okay.
Because Ivar brought the point, like if you can't defend yourself, why would people trade with you when they could just raid you? Instead?
Yeah, they're gonna take it for free. So why would they lose something to get something they can get for free? Okay, yeah. So again, see, it's stuff like that where like Ivar, like in his head, he's really thinking for the best of the people. Like he's saying that like we're putting people in danger doing these things. So because it's not really like he's trying to self-enrich himself. Like it's more Stark that's trying to push him to be like some like team leader. But Ivar himself isn't. Well, at least we're not seeing that he's like he values that more than anything. Like he won't give up the bigger picture for him to be the boss. Because he's again trying to make the safety and stuff like that for the farmers and all that. That's what he values. Stark's the one that's trying to play the games behind the scenes to keep public opinion on Ivar's side, stuff like that. But yeah, so Ivar, I'm not too hard on Ivar as I used to be. Got much more. I give much more points to Stark. Now knowing a bit more about like what he means to the Ivar duo and what he has done so far to build up to this situation. I know, of course, after Einar's, like talk with from before, I was like, all right, Einar, I don't know what we're doing here. But after 218, I really liked how that went. So that made me have much more respect for Einar. Of course, it was like Hild. The talk also made me. I mean, I never had issues with the Steno at all. And then with the farmer cast, again, now that I appreciate Stark a lot more, and I'm not too hard on Ivar as I was before. That made just my view on the farmer cast or how the farmers were. And Cordelia was also had some good showings too in the past few chapters. Past like 10ish chapters, there was good. Credit Gudrid didn't get her hands dirty while still showing like her might and stuff like that. So that was all good. Carly from the not more so these recent chapters, but from the beginning, Cardi's been having some good dialogue and stuff like that, good dynamics with Hill, Cordelia, all of that. So yeah, given the fact that now that my farmer cast, I appreciate them a way more, and then I don't dislike Heiner anymore. Um, and of course with the themes with like, I mean, we knew Thorfinn would fail, right? And then seeing how it came to be, and then seeing what led to this scenario and what or the situation, just step by step. I don't think, yeah, I like how Yukimura did it because I was just like when you came in, you said people gotta understand that they were gonna fail from the beginning, right? But when you read it month by month or for the past few years, you do forget because like Thorfinn's ideals be bewitching. Like he would hypnotize you into thinking he could actually pull this off. So like seeing, I won't even say the lack of progress, but like I'm forgetting that we're not building towards this utopia because the utopia is not gonna happen. So it's like what we're building towards is not the utopia. But there'll be instances where I'm thinking we'll be building towards the utopia, and then so that will kind of clash with what's going on. But given the fact that if from the beginning this was just like a showcase of like how someone like Thorfinn attempted to build this utopia and why it didn't work, how it didn't work, what he went through, stuff like that, then like through those lens, it feels much more complete and much more like the steps he took to reach here feels a lot more natural. So, and then the fact that I never disliked the arc in the first place, but I just felt like it could have been more of a home, not like a homestay arc, but an arc that I appreciate. Like out of all the arcs in the series, Baltic Sea, Farmland, I mean Polo, I mean those were Polo more of a saga, but I had this. I wasn't sure if this was lower than because it's not like one of like power scale, but now that after seeing that this is still shorter than Baltic Sea too, because the Thousand Year Voyage is only 27 parts. I mean,
so
actually not because it started at 80, so it's
no,
yeah.
This arc is longer than Baltic.
Yeah, it's longer than Baltic Sea. Baltic Sea was if Baltic Sea was 36 because I know it's part 36. If we start at 80, then it will be we're 38 chapters. Baltic Sea was 36, so we're 2 chapters ahead of Baltic Sea. Actually, no, because we started at 80. I mean, if name of the village, because at the end of one Haiti, that's when they touched down on the current island. But 181 was like the because like the cliffhanger was them touching down on the island. So if we want to count 181,
okay, so yeah, if you want to count the start of the arc as like when they're on Vinland,
then it's 37 chapters. Baltic was 36.
Yeah, but
so we just
I personally kind of count everything from when they land back in Iceland.
Oh, okay. You want to come from back? Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So like after Greece, basically. So like from
like everything post Greece.
Yep. Okay, yeah, that does make sense. Then we're about to see. We might have to count a bit before that too, but this should still be past anyway. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, so I think that I might actually like this more. Like we'll have to see it when it's all said and done. But I feel like he didn't have problems that stood out. Because for me, it's just like characters on my list going up and down. Like that was my issue. Just this character I had at like 4, now is dropping to 5. That kind of thing, which really isn't like a writing issue. It's just more so how much you like them. It's more of a personal opinion thing. But yeah, I never really had any writing issues. And then with I wasn't too sure what he's trying to accomplish with the last like war, given how that Cricket was, and Thorfinn was in there. But with how it capped off at 218, it felt like a very good, like solid kind of experience. So yeah, I think the arc is it's very I can't say complete because it's not over, but it looks like we're staying on track, like with what he's trying to do, and like with where we're going, the people we're involved with. Like he's not having like 10 different storylines just all over the place. Like we're very like focused, and like we're handling this issue, now we're handling that issue, doing this. Okay, here's disease going on. Here's how Canute's dealing with it. People in Markland and how they're going. Now it's happening with us. How these people reacting. Like it's very easy to follow. It felt yeah, very easy to follow. Wasn't really I didn't feel like he was making it too complicated. And of course the scenes, Hild forgiving Thorfinn, that was great. Some good character moments. Of course, what we just experienced that chapter of Heinar. And honestly, Thorfinn, did he go through a lot of? Because I know with Farman, that's when he was just getting used to this idea of him wanting to make this country and stuff like that. And like compared to like emotionally what he had to go through in this arc, this might be his most emotionally stimulated arc in terms of like with Hild forgiving him, like he just broke down there. What just happened with Einar broke down there, and then with the diseases, especially the stress, because this is when he has so many people under his command, and like their livelihoods and stuff like that, he has to like deal with. Because I remember when they were just telling him about a disease, and then Ivar, was saying, "Oh, it's a good disease, we up." But Thorfinn was already thinking that, okay, now how would the lieutenant react to this? Would we be attacked? Yeah, so he had to come in for negotiations, but they already attacked him before he could even, try to speak on peace. And then so yeah, the stress he had to go through. Yeah, I feel like the experience in this arc probably shaped him very well, at least post of this like transformed Thorfinn, this like new and improved. I'm a good guy, Thorfinn. This arc had most of the experiences that forced him to, I guess challenged him the most, and also helped him grow the most too. So I appreciate this arc a lot more now. I'll say it's in my good books. It's in my good books.
I think it would be fun to end this with what you were saying a little bit. Top 5 characters, because you were saying your character list has changed. Oh wait, let's hear it. Top 5 characters.
I'm a bit of a fraud. I won't lie. Let me see. Okay, so Thorfinn's definitely up there. Hild, Thorfinn and Hild's probably top 2. I don't know what the order will be. Those two. I don't want under 3, so I'll put him 4. Wait, hold up. Do I still like Thorfinn as much as I used to? Let me see. I do appreciate Canute as well. So Canute, I'll have him. If I have him 4, let's have Einar 5. Canute 4, Thorfinn, Hild 1, 2. Oh no, wait, hold up. Okay, no, I'll have Canute 3, Sigurd 4, Einar 5. Nah. That's my top 5. And then hidden mention to Thorfinn's mom and Sigurd's mom. I feel like the moms be dropping some knowledge, some gold. Especially when Tigger's mom was like, when Halfdan had like the chess pieces, and then you just like, but put it like the chess piece. I don't know, it's like becomes like the chess. I forgot exactly how she said it, but it changed that man's life. He said, "Whoa, oh, that's how it is." But yeah, but I really do appreciate. I like Sigurd a lot, so I have him 4. I don't think he's top 3 for me, but I haven't been higher than Einar, only because I mean you know my beef for Einar. I respect him though. I respect him. I would say Sickers still got no bodies, so we good Einar. You almost had it. Einar almost had it. But yeah, so Thorfinn 1, Hill 2, Canute 3, Sigurd 4, Einar 5. That will probably be mine, at least for now, because I'll have to see if there's shout out to like Thorkel and them, because after a certain part, Thorkel, because he represents the violence of the Vikings, and we're moving away from that, so he over time gets less and less important in Thorfinn's like sphere of influence. But yeah, that'll be my 5. That's right now.
Okay. I think if I was to give 5,
We hidden mention to her knight. I really like her too. Just shut up. But yeah.
if I was to give out 5, Thorfinn 1, Hild 2. I think I want to say Bug Eyes 3.
Ooh. That's not bad.
I like Bug Eye. Like, I think Bug Eyes brings a lot of heart to the story, you know?
the better Usopp? That's crazy, bro.
Yeah, the better Usopp, man. Miles and miles better. Probably number 4 would be... Do I want to say Sigurd? I might. Sigurd is up there, but I'm trying to think. Oh, wait, no, Askeladd. Yeah. Number 4 would be Askeladd. Okay, no, wait. Number 3... Actually, no, wait. Number 1, Thorfinn. Number 2, Askeladd. Number 3, Hill. Number 4, Bug Eyes.
I have to reread just to make sure we're Askeladd. Because I remember really liking him, but it's been so long that I don't remember exactly how high I had him. But I do respect that man.
And then number 5, I would say, is a tie between Sigurd, Leif.
Ooh, I love Leif. Oh my god.
And Sturk.
Ooh.
Like, I think now that like Stark's character has concluded, I really like the story arc of Stark.
Wait, you said one was I almost called him Vinland. Goodness, Thorfinn, Askeladd.
1 Thorfinn, 2 Askeladd, 3 Hild,
4 Leaf,
4 Bug Eyes.
Yeah, and then 5 was the tie.
Yeah,
Leaf, Stark,
5 is the tie.
You said Leaf, Stark, and
Sigurd.
Yeah. Oh, that's how it is. I love the Leaf appreciation. More people gotta respect Leaf, bro. That was my dude. Oh, wasn't he the one that bought Thorfinn back? Right?
He is. Yeah, he is. From Kettle.
My dude, real one.
One of my favorite panels from this whole series was the panel of Thorfinn after he landed back in Iceland and they're like getting ready to leave for Vinland. They like land in Greenland again to pick up people from Greenland. And Leif, he's like old, has like dementia basically. But he's like still kind of there, but he can't make the journey anymore. He just looks at Thorfinn and he says like, "Go forth, my son." And you see like the ghosts of Thor's and Askeladd right next to him. So it's just like the 3 father figures that Thorfinn has.
Yeah. Like
all smiling and telling him to like, go head first into the future and like do what you're trying to do. You know, one of my favorite panels. I'm trying to see if I can find it. I also think it's still so funny that Sigurd's dad tried to adopt Thorfinn. That shit was so funny.
Oh my! And then Thorfinn was playing the politics role too.
Yeah, he was about to play the
Yeah.
politics, and then Sigurd showed up and brought his grandchild. It was like, oh,
He's like, wait,
who are you
did he
again?
just speak? Thorfinn's like, wait, so about my money. I said, boy, we don't go.
Like,
I was like, come on, bro. Chill.
I found it. Follow your heart, my son. That's what it says. Posted in our little chat here.
Oh, that smile too. Thorfinn had to take the words in first. Hit that smile. Follow your heart, yes sir. Thorfinn, you failed him. No. I mean, given what he was trying to achieve, it is very. See, it's like when it is really hard to achieve some of these like goals. I'm so used to just MC tags just like leading MC to success, like blind success. But Thorfinn cannot, history told Thorfinn, no, you won't succeed, bro. That's tough. That is tough.
It is. He tried to achieve the impossible.
You think Knut's gonna crack jokes?
Bro. Yo, he might. He really might. That's the thing.
Alright, K. That was a good top 5. Yep. Oh yeah, the Stark appreciation. People gonna come for you for that one. They be like, Stark.
Yo, I'm ready. I'm ready, dude. I got my cape, bro. I'm on top of my little fort, just like Stark. Come at me, man. I'll defend this guy.
Alright, yeah. So appreciate you coming through and your the EK insights. That was heavily appreciated. Always like talking about some good manga. But it's certain someone was supposed to be here, but Mr. Unreliable. This is what it is.
But when both Hive leaders decided they needed to retire, man, somebody had to.
Yeah, they were like, you know what? I'm good at this series. I was like, wow. Y'all could be saying the same things you can't see him right now. Like, it's not like you're doing nothing crazy. I get it though. Sometimes you lose your love. Is what it is. But yeah, I did a lot of reevaluations, which I of course already mentioned. So that's always good. I like when I'm able to think about things from a different perspective than the ones I had. Because then it shows you that in some of these series, there are so many ways to look at things, not just a simple way.
Yep.
Yeah,
I was glad to be on. It was fun. Always fun to talk about some manga.
Facts. Don't worry. We got. Well, we still got Kono, Blue Period, like.
Bro, I think I did my little rewatch / read of Kono Oto, and man, that series is really funny. That's all I gotta say.
Hey, we gonna have to speak on it. I still gotta read this latest chapter though. Probably read it tomorrow, but I think when
it's good.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh yeah, you read it already? Damn.
Yeah, I read it already.
You were the
came out like what, 2 days ago?
Okay, yeah, you're right. It was yesterday, an hour ago, but that was 2 days ago. But okay, yeah. So I'll be on that. What else? But of course, Blue Period 2. I have to get that Blue Period done. I really want to get this Yatoro talking. Especially what happened last chat. I gotta get that.
I really like that we're addressing this specific issue in Blue Period now.
All right, let's before we go on a tangent,
We
I
gotta
gotta end
save
it.
it. We gotta save it.
Yeah,
We gotta save it.
we have to save it. We have to save it. All right, appreciate everyone for coming. Force EK, good guy, you here. Sage as well. Thanks for coming, Liz, and Malcolm as well. Yeah, that's about it. We're gonna see how the series ends. We'll probably like when the series is over. I don't know. Maybe depending on how he ends it, might have to do another one. But yeah, instead of that, thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna catch y'all later. Peace.
See you.